The Hokage of Konoha will always be a Senju. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Time Difference. It's very simple. Since the third Hokage appeared in the Rain Village, the defense of the Sand Village must be empty. After experiencing the rampage of the One Tail and the death of a large number of elite soldiers, the third Hokage is also afraid that the village will be in trouble. So if nothing unexpected happens, the third Hokage should have returned to the Sand Village. And once the village orders us to attack the Sand Village, we will find that the third Hokage has returned, and at this time, Hands of the Salamander has already conquered the Iron Country. We will have to face a powerful Rain Village. Hatakumo couldn't believe it. The Iron Country is at least one of the most powerful countries besides the 5 great countries. It should be impossible for the Rain Village to conquer it so quickly, right? Rope Tree shook his head. Soon, Konoha will understand the horror of Hands of the Salamander, the Bioman. The Rain Village is taking advantage of this time difference, and if nothing unexpected happens, the Cloud Village and the Rock Village should also take action. In just 10 days, the Iron Country was destroyed. Salamander Hanzo frightened the ninja world, and the name of demigod resounded throughout the ninja world. Salamander Hanzo rode on a giant salamander and broke into the army of the Iron Country alone, releasing the poison of the salamander, which directly made the area within a few miles barren and turned into a dead land. Without the protection of the samurai, the Iron Country had no power to resist at all. Burning, killing, looting, and committing all kinds of evil, the Iron Country soon became a purgatory on Earth. By the time Konoha reacted, it was too late. The Rain Ninja in the north, which had obtained a large amount of resources, was qualified to fight Konoha. Although the Sand Village suffered heavy losses, it fought a guerrilla war with Konoha with the advantage of the terrain. Once it found that the Konoha ninja was dispatched, it began to retreat, and when Konoha retreated, it occupied the original lost land again. Moreover, the third Hokage seemed to be more cautious. He basically did not fight with the Konoha ninja on a large scale. He relied entirely on strategic depth to fight, which made Konoha unable to say anything. Several times, the ninjas led by Hatakumo arrived within 100 miles of the Sand Village, but they were stopped by the slit of sky that was like a natural moat. The two major ninja villages, one using the harmony of people and the other using the geographical advantage, made it impossible for Konoha to make any achievements, and could only waste time with Rain Ninja and Sand Village. At the same time, both sides were actively trying to win over the 3 major ninja villages of Kumogakure, Iwagakure, and Mist Village to join the war or provide assistance. But these 3 ninja villages are not fools. Although they don't have as many resources as Konoha, they are not as poor as Sand Village. There is no need to go to war at all. They can watch both sides consume their strength and then join when one side is about to win. Of course, the 3 major ninja villages hope to see both sides lose and come out to pick peaches. What's more, the 2 strongest men in the ninja world at this time, Hands of the Salamander and the third Hokage, have not fought, so why are they in a hurry? The situation in the entire ninja world has reached a balance in this weird atmosphere, and everyone is waiting for the uncertain factor that can break the situation to appear. Of course, this has nothing to do with Naoki. He just went to the battlefield to fish after training on the front line. Because of Hatakumo's reminder, Naoki also tried not to use wood release as much as possible, but concentrated on studying Hataku's swordsmanship. He was also famous in the battle with Sand Village. It took Naoki a whole month to barely practice the first move of Hataku's swordsmanship. After that, it was to control the whole body's strength to gather to one point, that is, precision. If it was the gathering of the sword force before, now it is how to disperse. This move, Naoki practiced for 3 months. The last is hiding, which is also used in conjunction with Hataku's body skills. Naoki finally understood why he had to practice the previous control of power first, and release the power, before practicing the final body skills. The so-called hiding, to put it bluntly, is another superb trick to control the whole body's strength. Converging the whole body's strength is not only the only way to hide yourself, but also to maximize the completion of the shocking blow later. Without the previous foundation, the last move is completely useless. Only by controlling all the strength can one truly achieve the essence of the fast, ruthless and accurate Hatake swordsmanship. Naoki practiced on the front line for a year, and he could finally say that he had mastered the Hatake swordsmanship. At this time, 2 years had passed since the outbreak of the Third Ninja World War. Both sides were nervous and did not dare to give the other side any chance. During this period, Naoki was not always on the front line. Occasionally, he would change his post and return to the village to recuperate for a period of time and then come back quickly. Hatake Tsukumo was very happy and even took the time to go back and get married. What surprised Naoki the most was that Uchiha Fugaku was also married. This made Naoki feel that I was fighting to death on the front line and you were living a life of drunkenness and dreams in the back. However, because it was during the war, the weddings of the two were not grand, and they were very economical and easy. Otherwise Naoki might be even more jealous. Both of their wives were gentle and virtuous, and many people praised them as a match made in heaven. For this kind of thing, Naoki would always repeat to himself 3 times, "Women are all pigs. Women are all pigs. Women are all pigs." Then he would continue to train even crazier, trampling all the trees around him. Over the past year, Naoki gradually began to be trusted by his teammates. Everyone knew that this seemingly small genin was surprisingly powerful, and at Tsukumo's suggestion, Naoki also began to chat with them. "Lord Hiji, do you have any other bugs? Take them out, and let us see them." These days, Naoki has been pestering Hiji Aburame, the master of insect arts, and has been asking to see his bugs. Although Hiji Aburame is usually very cold, he completely changes into a different person when he mentions bugs. He excitedly took out several small test tubes, which were full of lively bugs. "I found these bugs with great difficulty. They are very powerful. Look at Naoki. This one is poisonous. This one." The others looked at the 2 people who were studying the bugs in silence, and they all stayed away from them, especially the female ninjas led by Gekko Shizuka, who looked completely disgusted. Hatake Tsukumo was happy to see the harmonious scene in the camp. Although it was during the war, they still had to enjoy it. "Lord Tsukumo, this is a wedding gift for you." Gekko Shizuka seemed to hesitate for a long time before she came to Hatake Tsukumo and handed him a pendant. "Thank you, Shizuka. You are not a child anymore, and you should find a good husband as soon as possible." Gekko Shizuka's cheeks were slightly red, but she was hesitant and couldn't say anything. "Got it." Gekko Shizuka left immediately after saying a word. "Huh? Are all women like this?" Hatake was confused. "I'm a little stuck. I'll try to adjust tomorrow. PS. I'm envious of the popular guy next door. When will it be my turn?" Alas. Chapter 52, The Call from the Wet Bone Forest. Rope Tree was concentrating on watching the insects that Aburame Hiji took out one after another, and he would occasionally make sounds of admiration, which made Aburame Hiji dance with joy. Suddenly, boom. Rope Tree, who was just teasing a parasitic bug, had lost his trace at this time. Everyone was shocked. "Captain, where is Rope Tree?" Unlike ordinary ninjas, Hatake Tsukumo is, after all, a Ranbu chief who has seen the world. He knows that Rope Tree summoned beast is from the legendary Wet Bone Forest, and it is very likely that it was reverse summoned. "Don't panic, everyone. It should be Rope Tree's summoned beast. I'll go ask Tsunade." Heizuyu Shenwei. Ninja technique. Summoning technique. A ninja dog with a physique more like a medium-sized dog appeared. Hatake Tsukumo wrote down a few messages and put a note in the bag on the ninja dog's chest. "Please, Geofei. Don't worry, Master Tsukumo." The ninja dog named Geofei ran towards the sunset, just like Tsukumo's lost youth. What the hell? Rope Tree looked at the gloomy bone forest around him with a confused face. Although he recognized that this was the Wet Bone Forest, the slugs in the Wet Bone Forest were obviously not as hospitable as the toads in Miyaboki Mountain. He had never been reversed since he signed the contract when he was a child. What was strange was that the slugs that used to crawl all over the Wet Bone Forest were nowhere to be seen today, and there was only the sound of water flowing under the mucus. "Master Slug?" Rope Tree carefully asked around and began to explore the surroundings. Although he often came to the wet bone forest before, he didn't know how big the wet bone forest was, and he was a little confused for a while. Rope Tree. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from the dark depths of the wet bone forest. Master Slug? Rope Tree carefully came to the place where the voice came from. Crack, crack, crack. Countless cracking sounds were heard, and countless bones around began to crack. Combined with the gloomy environment, it was a bit scary for a moment. Rope Tree. The murmur sounded again, and Rope Tree realized that the sound was actually coming from underwater. The bones around him were breaking more and more, and he even felt a little collapsed. Rope Tree didn't have time to think about it. He took a deep breath and plunged into the water. Oh my god. As soon as Rope Tree entered the water, he saw countless pairs of eyes looking at him. It turned out that the lazy slugs on weekdays were all gathered here at this time. The slugs kept moving, and Rope Tree was also rushed down by this torrent. Ahem. Rope Tree was taken deeper underwater by the slugs and found that this was actually a huge cast cave space. Unlike the dampness above, it seemed a bit dry here. Rope Tree. The voice sounded again, and Rope Tree looked closely and felt that his breathing had stopped. So big. So white. A huge slug appeared. It was so huge beyond Rope Tree's imagination. Rope Tree had always known that the slugs in his daily life were the clones of the slug sage, so the slug sage must be extremely huge, but Rope Tree really didn't expect it to be so big. If the slug summoned by Tsunade was a small mountain, then the slug that appeared in front of Rope Tree at this time was Mount Everest. This head was not inferior to the Ten-Tails. The huge slug slowly lowered its head, and its two eyes came up from both sides to look at Rope Tree. Rope Tree, you are so big already. Humans grow fast. It's normal for others to say this, but Rope Tree always feels weird when it comes from such a huge monster. Rope Tree, you are almost 12 years old, right? Yes, Slug-sama. Even though the slug's voice was still so gentle, such a large body still made Rope Tree a little nervous. 12 years old. Remember your grandfather also came to the wet bone forest at this age to sign a contract with me. The slug's voice was filled with a hint of reminiscence, but Rope Tree was a little confused. Isn't that right? The first generation signed a contract so early? The slug saw Rope Tree's confusion and began to explain slowly. The 3 holy places have been closed since a long time ago and have only been opened in the last few decades. And our wet bone forest was the first to open, and the reason is your grandfather. Rope Tree, you should have seen the white bones outside. In fact, these are all humans or animals who strayed here and were dissolved by strong acid over the past thousands of years. Rope Tree was a little creepy. He always thought those were decorations. Everyone who came to the wet bone forest was dissolved because they couldn't stand the strong acid. Only your grandfather was unharmed and awakened me who had been sleeping. So I signed a contract with your grandfather, promised to become his spiritual beast, and began to pass on to him a unique power. Rope Tree's breathing was a little rapid. He seemed to have guessed why the slug fairy called him here. This power is called Sage Mode. This is a state where you can use natural energy. This state can greatly increase the activity of the body with the help of natural energy to increase agility and defense. At the same time, it can increase the range and perception of physical attacks with the help of natural energy. Sage Mode uses natural energy to create Sage Chakra, which can greatly increase the power of all your own ninjutsu, physical skills, illusions, etc. Sure enough, Naruto swallowed. Sage Mode. The strongest skill in Naruto that does not rely on blood limit. A fighter jet hanging on the wall. Naruto's eyes widened. Excuse me, Slug Sage, can I practice this Sage Mode? Slug Sage did not give a positive answer, but explained to Rope Tree, I just said that Sage Mode needs natural energy as support. Although you have the same blood and chakra as your grandfather, I'm not sure if you can withstand this power. Absorbing natural energy is a very dangerous thing. It is very likely to be assimilated by natural energy, so it is a great test of a person's mind. I don't know if you can bear it. Once you can't bear it, you will turn into a stone and stay in the wet bone forest forever. Rope Tree was silent for a while. He naturally knew the danger of absorbing natural energy, but it was obvious that he had no way out. Rope Tree suddenly thought of Tsunade. Slug Sage, where is my sister? Can't she practice Sage mode? Slug Sage shook his huge head twice. Tsunade's physique is actually not as good as yours and your grandfather's. What's more, you have awakened wood release, which is an advantage that Tsunade does not have. Tsunade's success rate is pitifully low. Naoki, have you made up your mind? Do you want to accept the inheritance of the wet bone forest? If you don't want to, I won't force you. Naoki certainly didn't hesitate at all. I do. Here it comes. The sage mode is here. Is the Buddhahood far away? Chapter 53. Practice. 1. When Rope Tree agreed, he was determined to succeed, but when he started to practice, he started to get crazy. Slug Sage. Isn't there any other way? Like applying some oil or something? Rope Tree finally knew why the slug wanted to merge. Damn. The practice of Sage mode on the slug side is much simpler and rougher than that on the toad side. Why do you have to apply oil? There is no sun here. Rope Tree, I have a lot of natural energy in my body. I will swallow you directly, and you will start to feel the natural energy, and then slowly guide it into your body. Yes. The so-called practice of Sage mode in the wet bone forest is to be swallowed by the slug sage. Looking at the slug's sticky mouth and countless small teeth in his mouth, Rope Tree refused. And putting himself directly in a place where the natural energy is so strong, is it because he dislikes that he is not petrified fast enough? According to the slug sage, his grandfather Senju Hashirama was so successful. Good guy. He is the son of destiny. Rope Tree suspected that he would turn into a stone statue as soon as he entered. Slug Sage, is there a safer way? Or you can become smaller first and do it slowly? Rope Tree pleaded with the slug sage eagerly, but the other party refused to agree. Rope Tree suddenly felt that this dead snail was not cute at all. Rope Tree was a little tearful. Just now, he was drinking wine, singing songs, and eating hot pot with his friends, and in the blink of an eye, he was going to be eaten alive. Forget it. If I can survive this time, I will definitely eat roasted snails for a year when I go back. Rope Tree took off his clothes, calmed down, closed his eyes, and let the slug swallow him. Rope Tree is gone. Tsunade looked at Gaofei, who was sticking out his tongue crazily because of fatigue, with a look of surprise. Oh, it's nothing. I'm leaving first. Bye. Gaofei disappeared in a piece of white smoke, obviously returning to his own territory. Tsunade was a little confused, but still bit her finger according to Hatekisakumo's guess. Summoning technique. A thumb-sized slug appeared. Slug, is Rope Tree in the wet bone forest? The little slug nodded cutely. Yes, little Rope Tree is receiving the inheritance of the wet bone forest, and the main body is doing its best to help little Rope Tree practice. The inheritance of the wet bone forest. Tsunade thought of her grandfather. Could it be that trick? The slug hummed softly. Yes, I asked Rope Tree in advance, and Rope Tree has agreed. Tsunade actually didn't know the dangers of practicing the sage mode. She was just a little surprised and happy. Jiraiya, help me call a toad. I need to reply to Tsukumo. Forget it. 2. We still need to report to the village. Tsunade, this is not good. Stop talking nonsense. Summoning technique. Tsunade tied 2 small scrolls to the 2 toads, smiled at the 2 toads and said, please. The 2 naive little toads looked at Jiraiya, who was bleeding from the nose with fear, and immediately ran away. The heroic figure of the 2 toads jumping reminded everyone of their lost youth. The situation is not good. After being swallowed by the slug sage, Rope Tree found that it was not as unacceptable as he had imagined. There was no sticky liquid, and no unpleasant smell. It was like returning to the soft mattress at home. But when Rope Tree sat down to practice, he found that it was a bit bad. The natural energy in the body of the slug sage is too pure. It is definitely much stronger than the natural energy that can be felt after applying toad oil. In just a moment, Naoki felt surrounded by countless cheering natural energies, without having to make any effort to feel the existence of natural energy. But compared with this natural energy, Naoki's own chakra was like a small boat floating in the sea, which could be destroyed at any time. It's completely different from Naruto's training. What a sin. There is a gradual process over at Mayaboki Mountain, first feeling the natural energy, then absorbing it, and finally controlling it. This is why the Sage mode of Mayaboki Mountain has various forms, such as the lowest end Jiraiya style Sage mode, followed by Minato Namikaze's Aishidao mode, and then Naruto's most perfect Sage mode. What step you can reach depends on your own ability, but the Sage mode of the Wet Bone Forest is completely different. There is no way out. If you succeed, everyone will be happy, but if you fail, Naoki smiled bitterly as he felt the increasingly violent natural energy around him. If he really failed, he would not even have the chance to become a stone statue, but would be directly torn into pieces by natural energy. What a pitfall. The chakra in Rope Tree's body surged out crazily, trying to fight against the crazy natural energy from the outside world. Rope Tree started to fight with the natural energy, but his little chakra, although it might be considered outstanding among the Jonin, was completely inferior to the natural energy accumulated by the slug for nearly 1,000 years. Damn it, I can't hold on. Rope Tree was a little desperate. He couldn't resist this natural energy at all, let alone take it into his body and control it. Finally, the violent natural energy broke through Rope Tree's defense and poured into Rope Tree's body. Failed. Rope Tree's body began to petrify from his hands, forearms, upper arms, and then to his chest in an instant. Is he going to die? Rope Tree felt that the cold feeling of death had begun to invade his whole body. Sister, teacher is sorry. Rope Tree closed his eyes unwillingly. Crack. A shattering sound came from Rope Tree's chest. This sound also woke Rope Tree up. Necklace. Crystal necklace. It was the necklace left by the first generation of Hokage. When the petrification was about to reach Rope Tree's heart, the necklace cracked, and the next moment, it broke directly. What's going on? Green chakras quickly wrapped around Rope Tree's body and began to remove Rope Tree's petrification. Grandpa? Rope Tree seemed to be communicating with this ninja god whom he had never met for the first time. The chakra in the necklace continued to neutralize the violent natural energy. Rope Tree realized that this was not the time to be in a daze. He immediately calmed his mind and felt the chakra in the necklace. I really want to use would release chakra, but it's not. Rope Tree analyzed the composition of this chakra bit by bit, and at the same time, controlled the chakra he had just recovered to imitate it. The natural energy that was so violent just now seemed to be shocked like a little white rabbit, and it was all obediently floating around. Good opportunity. Rope Tree took the opportunity to lead the natural energy into his body, and the natural energy passed through his body very obediently and flowed quietly in his meridians. Success. Shangshu was overjoyed, but the next moment, he screamed and blood began to spurt out of his body. He looked at the natural energy that had been obedient just now in despair and ravaged his body again. Thank you for the reward from Ryuomu. I hope other readers can learn from Ryuomu. Even if the author doesn't have to sell misery, you can feel the author's misery between the lines and thus encourage the poor author. Chapter 54. Practice 2. The natural energy that was relatively docile just now suddenly went crazy, directly tearing the meridians in the body and running everywhere. It's over. Is this a normal process or a special situation? Rope Tree was in agony because of this huge contrast. The chakra in the necklace will soon be exhausted. If Rope Tree doesn't think of a way, once the chakra that protects himself is dispersed, he will be close to death. If Rope Tree was a lone boat in the sea before, now he is a ship with a broken mast, and death will come to him at any time. Calm down. Since the first generation Hokage Senju Hashirama passed the test at the age of 12, there is no reason why I can't do it. 12-year-old Senju Hashirama, no matter how strong he is not that strong. So how did he pass it? Rope Tree clapped his hands and decided to try his best. Would release. Would ingot wall. Several branches formed a sphere, protecting Rope Tree firmly in it. Sure enough, would release can magically block natural energy outside. But it's better to say that it is filtering, making the natural energy less violent than blocking. Would release has this function? Rope Tree smiled bitterly. He should have thought of it earlier. But now his meridians were almost destroyed by the natural energy just now, and he couldn't run chakra at all. Slug Sage. I found a way. Let me out first. As the slug's huge body twitched, a wooden ball was spit out by it. Rope Tree came out of the wooden ball and spat out another mouthful of blood. Slug Sage, you said you would use would release earlier. I almost died in your stomach. The gentle slug's voice was still sweet, but the content was not so friendly. No one reminded your grandfather when he went in. Rope Tree smiled bitterly again. Who knew that would release could resist natural energy? He always thought that natural energy was a higher level of chakra. Although would release was powerful, it was still in the ordinary escape technique, but it was obvious he was wrong. However, Naoki was a little confused. Would release was essentially the same as the God Tree, but when he awakened, not to mention the God Tree, he didn't see any tailed beasts. How did he awaken? Perhaps the answer can only be explained by the first generation after the impure world reincarnation. With would release as a guarantee, Naoki was no longer afraid of the violent natural energy. Although he still often broke his meridians, it was a piece of cake with the healing master slug. Naoki was practicing in the wet bone forest, and the war outside was still going on. After 2 years of confrontation, Konoha, Rain Ninja, and Sand Village were a little tired, but none of them could quickly resolve the other's strategy or strength. Especially Sand Village. They even wanted to send out the tailed beasts, but fortunately they were stopped by hands of the salamander. Once Sand Village opened this head, it would really be the culprit, and there would be no psychological burden when someone dealt with Sand Village in the future. Even if they use the tailed beasts, they must wait until Konoha uses the Nine Tails first, so that they may arouse a common hatred of several other villages. Although Konoha is also consuming huge manpower and material resources, the situation is still much better than the other side, especially as time goes by. The strength of Hokage Akumo and the three ninjas is increasing day by day, which undoubtedly gives many people hope. This is hope for Konoha, but a disaster for the enemy. Sand Village began to think of ways to fish, intending to get rid of Hokage Akumo first, and Konoha was also trying to kill the high-level Dheads of Sand Village, so Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law were killed by Hokage Akumo in an encounter. War, whether right or wrong, only disasters. Konoha's ninjas celebrated their victory, and the ninjas of Sand Village began to cry. Only a red-haired child looked at this collapsed world expressionlessly. Dad, Mom. Looking at the two cold bodies, the red-haired child did not cry, but just let the two put their arms on his shoulders. Let's never separate. The strongest puppeteer of Sand Village, Scorpion of the Red Sand, appeared in the world. 3 years later Rope Tree was only wearing one piece of clothing, floating quietly in a pure white world. Rope Tree was undergoing a transformation from a teenager to a young adult. He had gotten rid of his childish face, and had a well-proportioned and slender body. He was completely different from himself 3 years ago. Sage mode on. His brown pupils instantly enlarged, and red eyeshadow instantly appeared on his eyelids. 2 lines also appeared on his face, and there was a clear dot on his forehead, surrounded by a circle of red. Sage mode done. At this time, Rope Tree exuded an aura of looking down on the world, and the chakra fluctuations on his body were simply terrifying. Rope Tree soared into the sky, emerged from the huge mouth of the slug sage, and looked at his hands. Congratulations, Rope Tree, you succeeded. The slug smiled at Rope Tree in front of him, feeling a sense of relief, as if he had seen his child grow up. The slug's originally huge body also broke into pieces the next moment, and turned into small slugs all over the place. Rope Tree looked at the slug apologetically, knowing that it was because he had absorbed too much chakra from his practice, which caused the slug sage to hurt his origin, and he still needed more rest. Rope Tree felt the huge energy in his body, and a smile appeared on his face. At this time, he finally had the capital to save his life in the ninja world. Although his physical skills may have been somewhat abandoned in the past 3 years, the amount of chakra has definitely grown explosively. The power of the would release bloodline limit has also begun to show its fangs as Rope Tree grows up. Rope Tree put his hands together and was about to vent his power. By the way, Rope Tree, don't experiment with tricks here. Rope Tree scratched his head awkwardly. It seemed that his little thoughts were seen through. No wonder, the range of the late would release ninjutsu is larger than the other. If he does it a few more times, he will probably be able to overturn the wet bone forest. A slightly larger slug came to Rope Tree and spit out a half-human high scroll from its mouth. The scene was also extremely terrifying. Fortunately, with the influence of Orochimaru, he still had some psychological tolerance. Rope Tree, this is something left by your grandfather. He told me that I can only get this thing if I succeed in practicing the Sage mode. The first generation? Rope Tree was shocked. He didn't expect that there was something left by Hashirama Senju here. Is this his backup? The death of the first generation was too mysterious. The successor was the second generation Hokage, who had the same qualifications and prestige as the first generation of ninjas. Otherwise Konoha would definitely be in big trouble. Rope Tree always thought that the first generation probably left too hastily and didn't leave anything behind, but it was obvious that he left a backup. And Rope Tree also saw that this scroll seemed to be the one that the first generation carried. Rope Tree nervously touched the wet scroll. What big secret is inside? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. The First Hokage's Backhand. When Naoki opened the scroll, he saw a faint light. When he came back to his senses, he was already in a grey world. Not far away, a man in red armor was sitting with his back to Naoki. Naoki looked at the figure, a little afraid to go forward. He had already guessed something in his heart. Is it Tsunade? The man asked slowly, but when he turned around, he was a little speechless when he saw Naoki's obvious male features. Naoki saw the face that turned around, as expected. The god of ninja, one of the founders of Konoha, the first generation of Hokage of Konoha, and the patriarch of the Senju clan, Senju Hashirama. Since you are here, you should make the best of it. Naoki came in front of Senju Hashirama and saluted respectfully. Your son and grandson Senju Naoki greets Grandpa. Tsunade is my real sister. Whether it is because of occupying someone's grandson's body, or as a member of the current ninja world, facing the gratitude for ending the warring states period, Senju Hashirama deserves this great gift. Naoshu. Senju Hashirama's tone was somewhat emotional. After hesitating for a moment, he stepped forward and touched Naoshu's head. Well done. Senju Hashirama looked at Naoshu's naked body. I thought it would be Tsunade, but it seems that Tsunade hasn't made it this far. Naoshu immediately retorted, not really, although my sister hasn't awakened with release, she is still a powerful ninja. She's not much worse than me. If you say something bad about Tsunade, no matter who you are, just say it back. Senju Hashirama was stunned for a moment, then he laughed heartily. That's right. Ha 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 ha. It's actually a good thing that Tsunade hasn't awakened with release. A good thing. Naoshu keenly noticed the keywords in Senju Hashirama's mouth. Yeah, a good thing. Senju Hashirama immediately became bleak again, looking a little neurotic. Naoshu, you are still young. By the way, how old are you now? 15. Ha 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 ha. You are worthy of being my grandson. So awesome. Naoshu was very upset. For the first time, he felt the unreliability of this ninja god. After Senju Hashirama finished laughing, he continued, you are still young, you should not feel it. I didn't feel it until I was over 30. Wood release is like a fuel for the body. It can always keep our body in peak condition, but because of this, our lifespan will be shortened accordingly. I noticed this, but I didn't care too much. After all, I had difficult battles almost every day at that time, until the last battle with Madara. By the way, Naoshu, do you know Madara? The one from the Uchiha family. He is my partner. He is a little cold, but he is a very good person. He and I. Naoshu looked at Senju Hashirama with a frown again. Good man, you are really loyal to Madara until death. Won't your wife be sad? I know. The Battle of the Valley of the End. Naoshu interrupted Hashirama's deviation forcefully. If you continue talking, you will talk about your failure. Oh. For some reason, Senju Hashirama seemed to be a little disappointed. Right after that battle, I knew I couldn't hold on for much longer. Fortunately, I had my brother. You know my brother, right? Your uncle. Senju Tobirama. He is good in everything, except being too serious. He has a sullen face all day long. So scary. Rope Tree felt defeated by the mouth-to-mouth trick of the god of ninja. He suddenly understood that sometimes Tobirama wanted to stab Hashirama to death. Senju Hashirama went around in circles and finally got back to the point. I asked Tobirama to take care of the village at that time, but I always felt something strange. Senju Hashirama suddenly looked serious. I have a hunch that Madara may not be dead, because he actually bit me in the end. Oh my. The legendary telepathy between lovers? Rope Tree wondered if Madara, who was staying in the corner at this time, would be moved to tears if he knew that his old lover was so obsessed with him. So I was afraid that Madara would have some unfavorable plans for the village, so I left this. Finally got to the point. Naoki wanted to sing a folk song to express his joy. This is the product that Tobirama obtained in an accidental experiment. I can feel the name of this power. It should be called the power of the universe. Naoki was stunned. He never expected that what Hashirama Senju left behind was this. When the power of Senju and Uchiha is combined, it is possible to obtain the power of the universe. There are many people who have obtained the power of Senju and Uchiha, including Obito and Danzo, but there is only one person who has truly awakened the power of the universe, Uchiha Madara. Madara finally awakened the Rinnegan under the stimulation of this power. But Naoki didn't expect that Hashirama Senju also did it, so why did he die so early? Senju Hashirama saw the doubt in Rope Tree's eyes and explained, this power is extremely strong, and it may be able to suppress the burning of wood release his life, but I did not choose this path. The past will eventually pass. Watching Tobirama and the others grow up, I know that the era of Madara and I is over. I don't need to disturb this new era. In the new world, there is no ship that can accommodate me. Although Senju Hashirama's tone was flat at this time, in Rope Tree's eyes, he was particularly domineering. This is the momentum that the god of ninja who ended an era should have. By the way, what year is it now? How long has it been? Madara hasn't returned to the village, right? The first generation, who was so domineering just now, suddenly scratched his head awkwardly and asked Rope Tree. Okay, the domineering just now was probably pretended. Rope Tree rolled his eyes. You just remembered to ask this now? Don't worry, the current Hokage of the village is the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is the disciple of the second Hokage. It's a monkey. Ha 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 ha. Then I'm relieved. The first Hokage seemed to intentionally avoid the departure of the second Hokage Tobirama, and Rope Tree did not mention the war that Konoha is suffering now. Just as Senju Hashirama was unwilling to interfere in the new era, Rope Tree did not want to trouble Senju Hashirama with the current problems. This ninja god has done enough for the ninja world. In this case, I'm relieved. I hope you can solve the problem of wood release. Although I, an old man, haven't solved it, I believe in you. By the way, you have to persuade Tsunade not to learn from me to gamble. Ha 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 ha. Senju Hashirama's figure began to be a little illusory, and Rope Tree looked at Senju Hashirama with some sadness. Don't worry, Grandpa, the current Konoha is protected by our generation. At this moment, Rope Tree finally recognized his identity. He is Rope Tree, Senju Rope Tree from Konoha. Senju Hashirama was also stunned for a moment by Rope Tree's irrelevant answer, and then he put a hand on Rope Tree's head and said, yes, it depends on you. Chapter 56 Battle Deployment. The spirit of Senju Hashirama slowly turned into fragmented white light, blending with the surrounding environment, slowly forming a huge sealing ritual. Rope Tree touched it and realized that this was the seal of the power of the universe. How powerful is the power that can be hidden by the first generation as a trump card to deal with Uchiha Madara? Rope Tree knew that now was not the time to open it. With a thought, the surrounding environment turned into the underground cave of the wet bone forest again. Rope Tree, this is what your sister Tsunade asked me to give you. You're welcome. The slug threw out a new set of clothes and scattered away, either resting or rolling around. It can be seen that Rope Tree's practice has also made the slug a little autistic. After Rope Tree picked up the clothes and put them on, he tied the forehead protector on his head and showed a confident smile. Let's end this damn war. At this time, the ninja world became more and more uneasy. Seeing that Konoha and Rain Ninja Sand Village were in a stalemate, several other ninja villages also started to think about it, as if they had discussed it beforehand. Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and Kirigakure all began to make small moves at the border with Konoha. Although these small frictions were not serious, they were enough to make Konoha exhausted. We can't go on like this. Hiruzen. Danzo listened to the report from his subordinates and looked at the third Hokage seriously. We can't be idle any longer. We need a big victory. If we keep dragging it on like this, the other villages will definitely join the war. The third Hokage smoked his pipe, but his eyes did not leave the map on the table. Danzo, if we have to fight, which side do you prefer? The two top leaders of Konoha knew that their decisions would determine the life and death of countless people. Danzo took out a piece of intelligence and put it on the table. This is a comparison chart of the strength of the two armies. The Rain Ninja side has a cage level strongman, Hands of the Salamander, but his strength is so strong that I will call him a late stage cage level strongman. In addition, there are 36 Jonin and 317 Chunins. This is the strength exposed by the Rain Ninja village. It is not ruled out that Hands of the Salamander has hidden strength that has not been deployed to the battlefield. On the corresponding side of Konoha, there is not a single cage level on the battlefield of the Rain Ninja village, but there are 3 quasi-cage level masters, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru, who can barely fight against Hanzo. At the same time, there are 30 Jonin and 500 Chunins here, and the Sand Village battlefield has a large number of deaths of their strongmen due to the success of the anti-encirclement and suppression plan, and coupled with Tsukumo's assassination technique, the Sand Village has now reached its limit. The Sand Village has the third Kazakage, a mid-stage cage level strongman, and Chiyo, an early stage cage level strongman. In addition, there are 27 Jonin in the Sand Village, and there are relatively many Chunins. Many Chunin puppeteers are extremely difficult to deal with. As for Konoha, because Tsukumo broke through to become a cage level warrior a year ago, he can barely hold off the pressure from the cage level warriors in Tsunade. And Konoha has 30 Jonins and 200 Knins in the Tsunade battlefield. In general, the current situation of Konoha is that there is no shortage of Knin and Genin, and even the number of Jonin can overwhelm the opponent, but there is a lack of top level warriors who can decide the direction of the battlefield. On the Rain Ninja side, the 3 ninjas fought desperately against Hanzo, and on the Tsunade side, although Hatake Tsukumo had broken through, it was difficult for the head of the Anbu to fight against 2 cage level warriors. Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly thought that fortunately, the anti-encirclement and suppression plan a few years ago killed half of the high-end combat power of the Tsunade village, otherwise Konoha's current situation would be even more difficult. That little guy Naoki actually went to practice during the war. Oh, forget it. Even if he is there, it's useless. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that what Konoha lacked now was not a Genin or a Jonin, but a cage level warrior who could decide the direction of the war. Is Hiya better? Sarutobi Hiruzen did not rush to make a decision, but asked about Uchiha Hiya's situation. Who knows? The old guy is half dead and hiding in the Uchiha clan, and he almost never shows up. Danzo said unhappily. Half a year ago, Uchiha Hiya suddenly fell ill, which made many ninjas of the Uchiha clan panic. After all, once the Uchiha clan does not have a cage level strongman sitting in the house, you can imagine what the end will be. So this also caused many Uchiha clan members to deliberately work without working, making the situation on the battlefield even more tense. After all, if Uchiha Hiya really died at this time, and the Uchiha clan did not have a strong successor, only war could save the Uchiha. As long as the war does not end, the village will not attack the Uchiha, and the Uchiha will still be safe, so that sooner or later the next cage level strongman will be born. So it is not without reason that Konoha has fought for such a long time. This is of course beneficial to Uchiha, but it is a headache for the Hokage system. The pressure of war, the pressure of people's livelihood, and the pressure of daimyo are all accumulated in the chest of every Hokage. Sooner or later, one day, all will turn into anger against Uchiha. Forget it, let's not worry about Uchiha for the time being. The third generation pressed his temple with a headache. So we have to win a battle, right? Have you decided which side will initiate it? Danzo pointed to the right side of the map. Of course it's the Rain Ninja. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at his old friend with some surprise. I thought you would choose the weaker Sand Village. Danzo shook his head. The Sand Village is already at the end of its strength. We just need to fight them. There is no need to fight the crazy third Kazakage head on in the end. Sarutobi, you also know the power of the third Kazakage's arms and in large scale combat. There is no need to let our people die in vain. The Rain Ninja is different. Rather than saying that they are fighting a war of attrition with us, it is better to say that the Rain Ninja are fighting to support the war. With Hanzo Salamander in charge, we have never dared to launch a general offensive. The other side does not have so many concerns. They use a completely melee method, which makes some of the Rain Ninjas make rapid progress. Hanzo Salamander is not afraid of us, but he knows that the strength of the Rain Ninja is not as good as Konoha. Once the strength of the Rain Ninja he trained is equal to ours, he will launch a general offensive. Hiruzen, we must not sit and wait for death. We must take the initiative to attack and catch Hanzo off guard. Only in this way can we get the final victory. At this moment, Danzo was completely like a passionate young man who was thinking about Konoha. If it weren't for what happened to Hyuga Haku a few years ago, the third Hokage might really give Danzo more power. However, the third Hokage still agreed with Danzo's strategy. The focus was still on the Rain Village. Send a message to Orochimaru. Ask him to come back to see me. We must plan this battle carefully. We can only win, not lose. Chapter 57, Launching the Rain Ninja Campaign. Danzo was a little disappointed to see that the third Hokage did not settle things, but chose to recall Orochimaru. Attacking the Rain Village is undoubtedly the most important thing for Konoha, but there is a mountain that cannot be avoided that blocks this plan, and that mountain is Hanzo. Once the decision is made to attack the Rain Village, it is inevitable to face Hanzo, and at this time in the ninja world, there is only one person who can stop this demigod of the ninja world, the ninja hero third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. And once the third Hokage leaves the village, there will be too many things that can be done here. Orochimaru's various bug ninjutsu made him travel very quickly. He rushed to Konoha from the front line in just 3 days, and discussed countermeasures with the third Hokage. Fight. Orochimaru and Danzo have the same attitude. We can lure Hanzo away. Orochimaru's suggestion is that Hatake Tsukumo conduct a feint attack to see if he can trick Hanzo out. The third Hokage hesitated. It's unexpected that Tsukumo can take on the third Kazekage and Chiyo. I wonder if he can handle it. He can. He can't. He can. Hatake Tsukumo, this is too risky. The third Hokage looked at the map and rejected the suggestion. Then I have to do it. Orochimaru's snake eyes cast a dangerous light. It's hard for me, Jiraiya and Tsunade to fight against Hanzo, but at least we can contain him. But this requires others to defeat the Rain Ninja in the shortest time. The third Hokage took a deep puff of cigarette. The village can send another 10 Jonin and 30 Chunins to the Rain Ninja battlefield. This is the limit of the village. The third Hokage squeezed out some strength from his teeth with great difficulty, trying to increase the chances of victory. The root organization can send 5 Jonin. Danzo, who had been in the corner, suddenly spoke. Now it was Orochimaru and the third Hokage's turn to be surprised. Danzo, the stingy man, actually plucked feathers? The third Hokage looked at Danzo with satisfaction. Sure enough, playing is playing, making noise is making noise. Danzo, you still care about the village. After that, the 3 old Yinbi, three tactical masters began to plan the specific implementation of the war. Half a month later, Orochimaru led a team from Konoha. At the same time, the third Hokage also ordered Hatake Tsukumo to keep an eye on the Sand Village. Once the two villages united again, Konoha would fail. After Orochimaru returned to the front line, he immediately found Jiraiya and Tsunade to make arrangements. Hanzo of the Salamander will definitely release the poisonous fog, but this means that he will be alone when releasing the poisonous fog. The 3 of us have only one task, to stop Hanzo of the Salamander. Jiraiya and Tsunade's faces were not very good. They have seen the horror of Hanzo of the Salamander in the past few years. For group attacks, there is the invincible poisonous fog of the Salamander. For single attacks, there is the escalate technique, which has both offense and defense. It is definitely a tough opponent. It's very difficult. Jiraiya frowned. He still couldn't figure out how to defeat Hanzo. Then you two can hold him back temporarily. I need to prepare a technique. I can't say I can defeat him, but at least I can tie him. Orochimaru stared into Jiraiya and Tsunade's eyes, trying to make his companions believe him. Jiraiya took a breath. What kind of technique could allow Orochimaru, who is at the quasi-cage level, to challenge Hanzo, who is at the late stage of cage level? Tsunade was also shocked. He knew that if it was Jiraiya who said this, it would probably be that idiot bragging, but if it was Orochimaru, it would be completely different. Tsunade asked cautiously, Orochimaru, are you sure? Orochimaru glanced at his lower abdomen. No problem, it just takes time to prepare. By the way, this technique is thanks to Noise. What does Noise have to do with it? Tsunade was confused. But she knew that this might be a secret between master and apprentice, so she didn't ask any more questions. By the way, Noise, that stinky boy, didn't even come to see me after such a long time. The three's orders were quickly passed down, and this time the attitude was very clear, that is, to fight to the death, which also made some ninjas with ulterior motives give up their fluke mentality. The personnel of the Konoha Rain Ninja battlefield began to act quickly, which also attracted the attention of the opposite Rain Ninja. Wearing a gas mask, Hanzo of the Salamander sat on the huge salamander. Sarutobi Hiruzen, can't you hold it back? But have you thought about how to resist me? I hope you can come in person. The ninja hero of the ninja world, let me see the style of the Hokage. Hanzo of the Salamander didn't know how long it had been since he felt excited. Be prepared for battle, and then notify the Kazakage to cooperate with us to launch an attack. The ninja next to Hanzo of the Salamander hesitated. My lord, the Kazakage has come 5 times this month to urge us to give them supplies, so Hanzo of the Salamander was a little helpless about the pig teammate of Tsunade, and the 5 major ninja villages were really shameless. But it was no good to tear his face with Tsunade at this time. And although Tsunade was useless, he still agreed with the 3rd generation Kazakage. Tell the Kazakage that I will give him twice as much supplies after we win this battle. Ha. The salamander looked at the gloomy sky. Come on, Konoha, let me step on your corpses to declare my greatness. 3 days later, without any signs, Konoha launched the largest attack on the Rain Ninjas so far. The collision of physical skills, the duel of ninjutsu, and the clash of strategies instantly turned the Rain Ninja village into a huge meat grinder. At the beginning of the battle, the Rain Ninjas were suppressed by the Konoha ninjas with an absolute numerical advantage. On the 2nd day of the war, the salamander Hanzo could no longer sit still, and came to the front alone. Riding on the giant salamander, the salamander Hanzo looked coldly at the 3 guys who looked like little bugs under his feet. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't come? Don't tell me you are Konoha's support. You 3 can't stop me. Kuangi Jiraiya laughed. Hey, old man, you are so crazy. I don't need the teacher to beat you. If you have the guts, come down and fight us. The corners of the mouth of the salamander Hanzo slightly raised. I haven't heard this request for a long time, young man. The sickle in the hand of the salamander Hanzo flew and spun. Go ahead, I'll give you a chance to challenge me. Jiraiya leaped up. Go ahead. Tsunade. Yeah. Tsunade responded with a heroic roar, and the 2 quickly rushed forward. Jiraiya. Tsunade please. Orochimaru did not hesitate at all, made a not yet seal on his hand, and sat quietly in the ruins waiting. Salamander Hanzo looked at the calm Orochimaru, and suddenly had a hunch. These 3 little guys might bring me a surprise. No way. No way. Is there anyone who didn't get asked out on Christmas Eve, but read a book instead? No way. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 58 Confrontation. Jiraiya's long hair fluttered wildly, his aura reached the peak, his eyes were like torches. Ninjutsu, chaotic lion hair technique. Countless ghostly white hair flew towards Hanzo. Has it started? Hanzo looked at the countless white hair with interest. Sword technique, flash. Hanzo's sickle was like the god of death harvesting lives, cutting Jiraiya's hard hair in half. Ninjutsu, needle jizo. Seeing that long hair could not defeat the opponent, Jiraiya resolutely lay down, and the white hair on his back stood up, and countless hair needles shot towards Hanzo. Water style, water array wall. Hanzo formed a seal very quickly, and a water wall stretched in front of the 2 people, blocking the hair needles. Swish. The water wall quickly fell to the ground mixed with rain, because there was no chakra to support it. The huge salamander and Hanzo had disappeared. Jiraiya. Down. Tsunade seemed to have sensed something, and Jiraiya heard Tsunade's shout and quickly rolled to the side. The next second, a sickle shot up from where Jiraiya had just crouched. A sensing ninja, Hanzo, who emerged from the soil with the chain behind the sickle, narrowed his eyes and looked at Tsunade. "Asshole, where are you looking?" Fire style, flame bomb. Jiraiya was keenly aware of Hanzo's thoughts and hurriedly continued to restrain Hanzo. Boring. Hanzo's sickle slashed, and the fireball was cut. If it's just this extent, it's too disappointing, isn't it? Jiraiya smiled obscenely. "Asshole, I'm going to be serious." Jiraiya bit his finger and blood flowed from his fingertips. Ninjutsu, summoning technique. A red toad appeared with a puff of smoke. Jiraiya, has this day finally come? The summoned bunter held a pipe in his mouth and slowly touched his sword with one hand. It's really dangerous to fight against an enemy of this level. Jiraiya laughed loudly. "Stop talking nonsense, bunter. Go. Don't let anyone underestimate you." Toad oil bomb. Toad flame bomb. Fire style, toad oil flame bomb. A fireball that was countless times bigger than before sprayed towards the salamander under Hanzo's seat along with the oil stains. Hanzo frowned. The power this time was obviously not the same as before. Even he would be injured by the surging heat wave. The salamander burrowed underground again, and Hanzo also jumped to the side. They separated. Tsunade, who had been hiding behind Jiraiya, had a bright look in her eyes. Die. Tsunade did not attack Hanzo, but jumped high and punched the salamander that was half submerged in the ground. If you shoot a man, shoot the horse first. If you hit a man, hit the fish first. Bang. Tsunade punched with all her strength, causing spider web-like cracks to appear on the ground of half of the battlefield. So scary. Bunter and Jiraiya swallowed their saliva at the same time. Tsunade felt bad because the punch just now did not hit the salamander. Fire style, explosive flame formation. The ground around Tsunade suddenly sank, and dense explosive talismans appeared around her. Explode. Salamander Hanzo's face was ferocious. This move was definitely not weaker than the mutual explosive talisman, and in the future it would burn Nagato, who had already opened the Samzara. Tsunade. Jiraiya was too far away, and everything happened too suddenly, so he had no room to save her. A huge explosion sounded, and at the same time, there was a flame that was not weaker than the toad oil flame bomb. A black shadow struggled in the flames, and was soon burned to ashes. Jiraiya was stunned, looking at the flames in disbelief. Tsunade? Salamander Hanzo looked disdainful. That's it? Jiraiya looked at Salamander Hanzo with red eyes. "I'm going to kill you." Jiraiya's mind went blank at this moment. He jumped onto Bunter's head and rushed towards Hanzo alone. Jiraiya. Bunter was anxious to stop Jiraiya. Jiraiya, who was already furious at this time, could not listen to anything. That was Tsunade, his most important companion. The person he loved most in this world. Hanzo looked at Jiraiya, who was out of control, and laughed. "What's wrong? Is that woman your lover?" Jiraiya took out a kunai and rushed directly towards Hanzo. "That's right. I will take off your head with my own hands to commemorate Tsunade." The two of them exchanged dozens of moves in a flash, but facing the furious Jiraiya, Hanzo easily exposed to floor, causing Jiraiya to lose balance and kick Jiraiya away. Water escape, acid rain technique. Countless raindrops hit Jiraiya's head and face, and each place they hit would create a small hole in Jiraiya's armor. Jiraiya lay on the ground, feeling the pain of his body being corroded. "Tsunade, I'm sorry, get up." "No." "What?" Behind Jiraiya, Tsunade, who had just been burned to charcoal, appeared, with green healing chakra flashing on her hands, to help Jiraiya heal his wounds. "Tsunade, why are you not dead?" Bunter next to him was speechless. "Do you think you are talking human language?" Tsunade gave Jiraiya a slap. "So much nonsense. Am I someone who can die so easily? And what about your lover? If you keep talking nonsense, I will tear your mouth apart." Jiraiya responded with a silly smile. Tsunade also sighed secretly that it was a close call. When she felt that she had not hit hands of the salamander, she immediately used the same molting technique as Orochimaru to escape. Speaking of Orochimaru, Tsunade looked at Orochimaru behind her, who was still unusually calm and had his eyes closed. "What's the matter with that violent chakra? Is this really the chakra that humans can possess?" Looking at the intact Tsunade, Hanzo of the Salamander could not help but frown. I underestimated you. Hanzo of the Salamander took off his gas mask, and with every breath, a stream of poisonous gas was exhaled from his lungs. Come on. Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at each other. Go. Facing Hanzo of the Salamander's terrifying poisonous fog attack, the two could only fight and retreat, but they both intended to keep Hanzo away from the area where Orochimaru was. Hanzo of the Salamander also felt the intentions of the two. Poisonous fog spray. The salamander spit out a large mouthful of venom from its mouth and attacked the two. The two were exhausted from dealing with Hanzo, and faced with the bite of the salamander, they were directly hit by the venom. Damn. Tsunade quickly resisted the venom, and at the same time, looked at Jiraiya on the side. Jiraiya's arm had been corroded, and the shocking wound was still expanding. Can't even the wound hurt him? Tsunade looked at Hanzo in despair. Die. Hanzo raised his sickle high, intending to reap the lives of the two. Dang. A kunai flew up, causing the sickle to deviate to one side. A hoarse voice came from behind. Tsunade, Jiraiya, leave it to me next. Thank you Ruomi for the reward. Merry Christmas. Of course, other readers should also be happy. Merry Christmas. Chapter 59. The title of Three Ninjas of Konoha. The person who came was Orochimaru. But Orochimaru had completely changed his appearance at this time. Countless transparent scales appeared on his face, making Orochimaru's originally handsome face look a bit weird. Orochimaru's upper body was completely naked, and a snake head with closed eyes extended from Orochimaru's belly. Tsunade, Orochimaru. Jiraiya, so ugly. Hanzo looked at Orochimaru excitedly. With such chakra, I agree with you. The snake head on Orochimaru's belly suddenly opened its eyes. Shadow snake hand. Countless thick snake bodies swarmed towards Danzo's face. If the snake released by the previous shadow snake hand was a rat snake, now it is completely a titan python. It's not in the same league at all. Hanzo looked at the snake group with a cautious expression, and the sickle in his hand was thrown into a barrier to block the snake group. Senjutsu, great breakthrough. One blow was not over yet, and another blow came. The wind chakra formed by the gathering of blue chakra was extremely sharp, causing Hanzo's face to change drastically. What a strange technique. Hanzo sensed danger from the ninjutsu just now. Be careful. Hanzo's many years of combat experience told him that Orochimaru in front of him was qualified to fight him. At this time, Tsunade also helped Jiraiya heal his wounds, and the two came to Orochimaru. The three looked at each other. Ninjutsu, summoning technique. Two monsters of the same size as Bunter appeared on the battlefield. Manza's two big eyes tried to squeeze in the middle, and his attitude was different from the previous arrogance. At this time, Orochimaru made him a little afraid. The slug was a little surprised. Tsunade, you said you wanted to summon me earlier, and Rope Tree had to come all the way here. Bunter also jumped to the middle of Manza and the slug, pulled out his sword, and confronted Hanzo who was riding a giant salamander. Now is not the time to chat. Sanin vs. Hanzo of the Salamander. Start the battle. The three huge summon beasts fought with the salamander, and their huge bodies made the devastated battlefield even more broken. The three ninjas teamed up to fight Hanzo, which was also earth-shattering. Orochimaru's magic became the main force of the attack, and with his super high combat IQ, every blow made Hanzo extremely uncomfortable. Jiraiya's ninjutsu was mostly open and close, and the gorgeous fire ninjutsu blocked Hanzo's movement. Tsunade always hid behind the two to launch a sneak attack. Once she had the chance, she would definitely punch violently, making people either dead or disabled. This is a tacit understanding of the three ninjas. It is the 10 years of fighting side by side. It is the various tactics to deal with the enemy every time. It is the belief of the three people to fight the enemy together. The combined three ninjas are the legend of Konoha. Hanzo also felt a huge pressure from it and began to become serious. Water escape, heavy rain technique. Hanzo's first move was an S-level ninjutsu, and a huge rainstorm mixed with shurikens fell from the sky. As the leader of the rain village, Hanzo's water escape is invincible, almost second only to the second generation Hokage who was not doing his job for a day. The reason why it was ignored by the world was just because of its more powerful and more terrifying poison, but anyone who looked down on Hanzo's water escape would definitely regret it. Ninjutsu, Needle Jizo. Jiraiya's long hair became swaying, blocking Orochimaru and Tsunade. Isn't it over there yet? Jiraiya secretly glanced behind him. He did not forget the purpose of the three of them, which was to buy time for the rest of Konoha and defeat the Rain Ninja as soon as possible, rather than to fight Hanzo to death. At this time, Orochimaru was getting more and more excited. Since he mastered the Sage mode, he has never fought so hard. Even if the natural energy in his body is decreasing, it does not affect Orochimaru's wanton release of Sage techniques. Sage technique, double snake strangulation. Orochimaru released a huge python in each of his hands, and each of them had a small horn on its head. Hanzo's face was not good. He had already felt that Orochimaru was unusual, as if he had been strengthened in all aspects, making Orochimaru's strength enter the threshold of cage level. We can't delay this any longer. Hanzo retreated to the top of the salamander, discarded his sickle, and began to quickly form seals with both hands. Stop him! Tsunade roared, and the three of them rushed forward at the same time. Although it was unknown what ninjutsu Hanzo was preparing, the ninjutsu that a strong man of this level had hidden in his bottom box was definitely extraordinary. Water escape poison explosion technique. Hanzo finally completed the seal. The salamander under Hanzo's seat began to swell instantly, knocking the invading three ninjas away. The body of the salamander quickly turned into a huge balloon, and it seemed that something was brewing inside. Boom. The huge salamander seemed to be punctured, and countless sticky purple liquids burst out. The purple liquid seemed to be endless, and it made a corroded sizzling sound when it fell on the stones. The purple liquid was like a giant beast that devoured everything, with the salamander as the center of the circle, and continued to spread around. When the venom touched Bunter and Manja, the two beasts screamed at the same time, and turned into smoke, and returned to Mayaboki Mountain and the Earth Dragon Cave. The slug didn't hold out for long. It looked at Tsunade worriedly, and turned into a puff of smoke, and returned to the wet bone forest. The venom was like seawater, with no sign of stopping. Jiraiya, Tsunade, and even Orochimaru in Sage mode were forced to retreat step by the venom. Suddenly, three chains shot out from the venom, and entangled the ankles of the three people. Then, Hanzo rushed out of the venom. He swung a sickle at Orochimaru, and cut off his right arm. Orochimaru, Jiraiya and Tsunade were also entangled, but they still shouted worriedly when they saw Orochimaru's miserable condition. It's okay. Several snakes crawled out of Orochimaru's broken arm, and turned into a white arm again. But Orochimaru also began to pant, because of the huge consumption. At this time, the expansion of the venom finally reached its limit, and this place became a vast sea of poison. Behind the salamander Hanzo, there was a lazy salamander. Behind the salamander, was the purple sea. After the first Hokage Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, another ninja who changed the terrain by himself. Demigod of the ninja world. So terrifying. Ahem. Even with Tsunade, Jiraiya was still poisoned in a battlefield full of venom and poisonous gas. The same is true for Tsunade. The battle just now consumed too much chakra and physical strength. Only Orochimaru still maintained the Sage mode, but he couldn't hold on for too long. The three ninjas are already at the end of their strength. Hanzo looked down at the three people. You three are very powerful. You can survive in this environment. You have my recognition. It seems that Konoha not only has Sarutobi Hiruzen, but even his disciples are so excellent. I'm willing to call you the three ninjas of Konoha. Thanks to the book friend 160,629,213,102,129 for the reward. Thank you. Chapter 60 Collapse. Hanzo raised the sickle in his hand. Go with my approval. There is no right or wrong in war. Peace will come eventually. Hanzo knew that the war was not over yet. If the three ninjas of Konoha were left alone, they would definitely become terrible opponents in a few years with their potential. The snake head on Orochimaru's stomach suddenly opened its eyes. Senjutsu, Snake Burial Waterfall. This is Orochimaru's trump card. Countless snakes poured out of Orochimaru's abdomen, blocking Hanzo's sight. And Orochimaru bit his lips in pain. The human body is so fragile. Jiraiya, Tsunade, you go first. Tsunade helped Jiraiya up, knowing that this was Orochimaru sacrificing his life to leave them a chance to live. Let's go, Jiraiya. Tsunade's eyes flashed with tears. Ahem. Jiraiya had already started to vomit blood, and it was obvious that the poison had penetrated deep into his internal organs. Tsunade, even if it was you, if you pulled me away now, I would not forgive you. Tsunade was startled and met Jiraiya's determined eyes. Abandoning my companions is never my ninja way. Jiraiya used all his strength to shake off Tsunade's hand on him. This might be the first time in his life that he rejected Tsunade. Jiraiya sneered at the painful Orochimaru. You guy. Why are you pretending to be a hero? You want to be a hero, but have you asked me? Idiot. Orochimaru was in so much pain that he couldn't speak, but he still gritted his teeth and cursed Jiraiya. Jiraiya staggered in front of Hanzo and threw a shuriken in his hand tremblingly. Ninjutsu, shuriken throwing technique. The shuriken stuck softly in the ground half a meter away from Hanzo. Minimal damage, but great insult. Hanzo was also enraged and cut off a big snake with a knife and passed Orochimaru to Jiraiya. Die. Would release. Tree world descends. Countless huge trees rose from the ground, and several vines wrapped up the three people and quickly returned to the newly risen forest. Would release. The four of them seemed to sense something and looked towards the horizon. A figure was wearing a Konoha forehead protector, a white divine robe, and a huge scroll on his back. Rope Tree. Tsunade was the first to call out the name that she had been thinking about day and night. Yeah. Rope Tree looked at the three seriously injured people and jumped in front of them. Tsunade touched Rope Tree's cheek, and she couldn't tell whether it was happiness or regret that surged in her heart. You have grown up. Rope Tree smiled and nodded, and then looked at Orochimaru, who had a big hole in his abdomen and had exited the sage mode. Sorry, I'm late. Rope Tree's face was gloomy. He didn't expect that he would encounter this battle. And looking at Hanzo, he was completely different from his previous life. He really wanted the lives of the three ninjas. Rope Tree looked outside the woods. Sister, help heal the teacher. I'll be back soon. Tsunade quickly grabbed the corner of Rope Tree's divine robe. Rope Tree gave Tsunade a bright smile. Don't worry, sister, I've grown up. Tsunade looked at Rope Tree's smile, and she actually let go of her hand. Yes, Rope Tree has grown up. Rope Tree came outside, looking at the poisonous sea and salamander Hanzo, with murderous intent on his face. You shouldn't hurt them. There are my teacher and my sister in there. Salamander Hanzo looked at the huge forest in front of him. You are the would-release ninja a few years ago, right? I heard from the third Hokage that it was you who messed up our plan. Rope Tree did not deny, so today we will settle the old and new grudges together. Haha. Salamander Hanzo laughed sarcastically. Little brat. Even if you have a bloodline limit like would release, you are not invincible. Today, I will teach you what it means that there is always a world outside the world. Rope Tree didn't say any more nonsense and clasped his palms together. Would release. Flower Tree world is coming. Countless branches with thick stems tore the rocks apart and grew above the poisonous sea. There was a huge flower bud at the top of the branch, which soon bloomed and scattered countless dust. Don't you like poison? Let's see who is more poisonous. Hanzo inhaled a mouthful of pollen and felt dizzy. He quickly put on his gas mask again. What a powerful poison. Hanzo actually had a headache. It takes time to replenish the venom, especially since he had just released the poison. It would be difficult to recover in 10 days or half a month. Moreover, after fighting with the three ninjas, both his physical strength and chakra had declined. He was not as relaxed as he appeared. Water escape water dragon bullet technique. Hanzo didn't want to consume it anymore, so he started to use large-scale ninjutsu to resolve the battle as soon as possible. Rope Tree smiled when he saw this scene. He was quite happy. He closed his palms again, and the mark between his eyebrows appeared. Would escape all cloth bag technique. 8 wooden hands appeared around Hanzo. One of them grabbed the water dragon that had not yet taken off and crushed it in his hand. Another one quickly grabbed the confused giant salamander. After being pinched, the giant salamander cried like a baby and disappeared into smoke. Damn it. Hanzo of the salamander looked at the huge hands around him and felt that the situation was becoming increasingly unfavorable to him. These branches transformed by the wood release seemed to have a purifying effect, and the poisonous miasma was slowly decreasing. and the poisonous gas that killed countless enemies on weekdays seemed to have no effect on Rope Tree at all. As for large-scale ninjutsu, is there any ninjutsu larger than would release? Natural counter. Compared to the very simple Sage Mode mastered by Orochimaru, Rope Tree's Sage Mode is completely a deluxe hardcover version. In this case, Hanzo of the Salamander took out his sickle. Little brat. Have a fair fight. Rope Tree saw what Hanzo meant and looked back at the woods. Teacher. Here comes the sword. A long sword flashing with cold light whistled out of the woods, and Rope Tree grabbed the hilt. Hanzo's sickle flew up and down with a chain, like the god of death harvesting souls. Rope Tree held the hilt with both hands, took a long breath, and aimed the sword at Hanzo. Hanzo poured his chakra into his sickle, obviously wanting to complete a fatal blow, with an amazing murderous aura. Rope Tree was completely the opposite, with only one sword and one person. Dang. The two figures turned into a trail of after images and crossed each other. Hanzo landed on the ground, with his back to Rope Tree, and smiled. What's the name of this move? Rope Tree also turned his back to Hanzo, and danced his long sword into a sword flower. Hatake style sword technique. Hatake? Hatake Sakumo? Hanzo lowered his head, and looked at the blood oozing from his waist. A very fast sword, a very strong person. The wound on Hanzo's waist was no longer oozing blood, but spurting blood. At that time, I really should have killed you. The kid who could use would release. By the way, what's your name? Before dying, everything will turn into a long movie. Hanzo saw himself being called a monster when he was young, because he transplanted the poison sac of a salamander. He saw himself going through life and death countless times. He saw himself leading everyone to victory. I saw the person I had clearly forgotten. Goodbye, salamander. Hanzo finished watching the movie and closed his eyes. I guess my life has been pretty good. The demigod of the ninja world, Hanzo, the salamander, collapsed. Chapter 61. Domination of the ninja world. Hanzo is dead. A generation of heroes finally died in the hands of Konoha ninjas. From the perspective of Konoha, Hanzo is a warmonger who does all kinds of evil. But from the perspective of the Rain ninjas, Hanzo is a well-deserved hero. There is no right or wrong in war, only winning or losing. Tsunade-sama. Jiraiya-sama. Orochimaru-sama. Finally, a Konoha ninja came from the battlefield next to it. Tsunade nodded, but the chakra in her hand did not dare to leave Orochimaru's stomach. What's the situation over there? The Konoha ninja who came over said excitedly, a big victory. The Rain ninjas were basically defeated. Only a few escaped. Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief, looking at the two half-dead companions beside her and the dense woods. Is the war finally over? The battle report was quickly transmitted back to Konoha. The third generation Hokage smoked his pipe facing the window, but his shaking hands from time to time showed his inner restlessness. We won. The third Hokage had never thought that he could kill Hanzo of the Salamander. Even if he personally took action, he would not be able to say that he would win for sure against this demigod of the ninja world. But now someone told him that Hanzo of the Salamander had surrendered. And the one who killed Hanzo was just a 15-year-old child. Hiratsuka. Shimura Danzo's voice interrupted the third Hokage's meditation. Hanzo of the Salamander is dead. We can plan how to deal with the Sand village. The third Hokage came back to his senses and tried to keep his voice calm. Well, let Jiraiya stay and clean up the remnants of the Rain village. Also, let Tsunade, Rope Tree, and Orochimaru come back. Rope Tree. Danzo's body shook unconsciously when he heard this name. Danzo waved his hand and asked everyone around him to leave the Hokage's office. Hiratsuka. Danzo looked into the eyes of the third Hokage, and the third Hokage already understood what his old friend wanted to say. Too fast. Rope Tree has grown up too fast. In fact, the moment the third Hokage knew that Naoki had awakened would release, he intended to pass on the flame of inheritance. But his earliest idea was that it might take another generation, at least 20 years, before it would be Naoki's turn to carry the banner. But now, he, Danzo, Hatake Sakumo, and Uchiha are basically the core of power in Konoha. Even the three ninjas were temporarily excluded from this core circle. If a village has one cage level strongman, that's not bad. If there are 2, that's excellent. If there are 3, that's great. But what about 4, 5, or even 6. The pie is so small, no one is willing to give their share to others. Danzo's meaning is also very clear, that is, to kick some people out. Uchiha, who is more suitable than the villain that this village has been promoting for decades. The third Hokage pressed his temple in confusion. Let's not talk about this for now. The war is not over yet. Let's wait until it's over. Danzo sneered, then it will be too late. Hiruzen, you are always so indecisive. If you really don't want to be the bad guy, let me do it. The third Hokage shook his head, it's not necessary now. Danzo looked at the third Hokage with disappointment and turned away. The third Hokage sat on the Hokage chair, which symbolized the highest power in Konoha, with an incomprehensible light flashing in his eyes. At this moment, he continued to hope that Danzo could do something, but he didn't want Danzo to do so. Let it be the third Hokage understood that after the war, Konoha would usher in a new round of reshuffle. But as a Hokage, he was born to be invincible. Hanzo's death was like a huge bomb exploding in the ninja world. Konoha, Sand Village, Kumogakure, etc. were all overwhelmed by the news. And Senju Naoki reawakened the fear of the Senju clan that the major ninja villages had decades ago. Especially the Hidden Cloud village, which has been researching tailed beast weapons and wants to challenge the hegemony of the wood industry, has turned green in the face. The Senju clan once again dominates the ninja world. The reputation outside is a reputation, and Rope Tree is not in a good situation at this time. He, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru. The four of them lay side by side in a tent in the field hospital. After all, Hands of the Salamander is Hands of the Salamander. Even if several people are on guard against his poison, they still suffer a lot. The worst is Jiraiya, who is basically paralyzed in all four limbs and foams at the mouth. The second is Orochimaru. Although the poison is not as deep as Jiraiya, the huge wound on his stomach makes him look very scary. Rope Tree and Tsunade are okay. Both of them have stronger physiques than Orochimaru and Jiraiya, but their movements are a little stiff and their heads are slightly dizzy. Naoshu, you are such a heartless person. You haven't come back to see me for such a long time. Naoshu, how tall are you now? Naoshu, can you get married? You must continue the family line of the Senju family. The huge tent was full of Tsunade's endless verbal attacks. Jiraiya was speechless because he couldn't speak, and Orochimaru was because the topic had nothing to do with him, leaving Naoshu to deal with it. Naoshu looked at Tsunade speechlessly. Sister, when it comes to continuing the family line, shouldn't I get married first? If I really get married, will you be the head of the family alone? Tsunade was stunned for a moment, and what she said seemed to make a little sense. Tsunade suddenly remembered Jiraiya's heartbreaking screams after she was engulfed by the flames, and her cheeks actually turned slightly red. Naoshu immediately caught this and said with a sly smile, "Is my sister in love?" Jiraiya's eyelids moved like a dead fish. How is it possible? Tsunade immediately refuted, but the blush on her face did not go down. The corners of Rope Tree's mouth curved even more. Should he be a ninja from Konoha? Tsunade shook her head hurriedly. No. Impossible. Rope Tree's smile has reached the level of being obscene. Is he still a Jonin from Konoha? Tsunade looked at the bed behind her without leaving a trace. Still stubborn. No. Yes. Rope Tree continued to ask. Let me guess. Is it Kato Dan? What? Tsunade looked at Rope Tree in confusion. And the desperate Jiraiya tried his best to think about who Dan was in his paste-like head. What Rope Tree didn't know was that because of himself and Orochimaru, Tsunade proposed to form a medical team several years earlier than the original. And the love at first sight encounter between Tsunade and Anne was directly messed up. People are like this. Sometimes a miss may lead to two completely different fates. In Tsunade's heart, Dan is probably about the same status as Pasabiye and Cannon Fodder B. Seeing Tsunade's puzzled expression, Rope Tree was also a little confused. Not Dan? Who is it? Could it be that her butterfly effect made Tsunade fall in love with some wild man? The tent fell into a strange and awkward silence. Orochimaru, I want to leave these mentally retarded children. Jiraiya, my mind is broken. Tsunade, who is Dan? Where did the gossip come from? Naoki, women are so troublesome. What are we eating later? I have something to do today. This chapter is a little late. Sorry, the author has nothing to do tomorrow. Apart from eating, I will write. There will be more updates. Come on. Alija. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Return to the Village. The village's order came down quickly, but Tsunade was a little puzzled. Although the enemy was no longer a big threat to Konoha, the recall of the three major forces at once greatly delayed the time to end the war. Rope Tree and Orochimaru looked at each other, and after each of them knew what was going on, they didn't say much. When Orochimaru was just a little better, the three of them set off to return to the village to report, leaving Jiraiya, who could barely speak in bed, to guard the front line. On the way back, Rope Tree also asked about Orochimaru's situation. Teacher, your sage mode. Orochimaru covered the bandage on his abdomen. This is the wound left by the white snake sage of Raichi Cave who helped me practice. When I can freely control the sage mode, this wound will disappear. Rope Tree suddenly found that the toad's training method was so comfortable. He was suffocated by a bite, and Orochimaru was directly bitten with a big hole. Teacher, is there any solution? Orochimaru nodded. There are some clues. Maybe we need your help, Naoki. By the way, yours is the legendary perfect sage mode, right? Naoki hummed, and did not tell Orochimaru about the filtering effect of wood escape on natural energy. The three chatted all the way back. Because of Orochimaru's injury, it took a full month to return to Konoha. This time, it was not Uchiha Fugaku who was guarding Konoha, which made Naoki a little regretful. I miss Beige Boy a little bit after not seeing him for a long time. Although Naoki and his team made great contributions, they were secretly recalled this time, and there was no grand celebration banquet. But the news from the front line was still spread by word of mouth, and returned to the village. Have you heard? The war is over. Yes, I heard that it was all thanks to the three disciples of the Hokage and a mysterious ninja that they won. What mysterious ninja? That person is called Senju Naoki. It is said that he is the grandson of the first Hokage. No wonder, no wonder. The whole village seemed to have regained a lot of vitality, and the haze of war was leaving Konoha little by little. The discussions of passers-by on the street also reached Rope Tree's ears. Although Rope Tree was happy, he did not dare to let his guard down. The nature of the Second Ninja World War was actually the prelude to the Third Ninja World War, and there would be countless tough battles to fight in the future. The news of the three returning to the village soon reached the ears of those who were interested. Danzo hid in a cold corner and watched the three quietly walk into the Hokage's office. Let's get started. Rope Tree, I haven't seen you for a long time. You have grown up so much. The third Hokage's face had traces of time, like a kind old grandfather looking at Rope Tree. Thanks to you this time, otherwise I don't know when the war will end. Rope Tree hurriedly declined. It's all everyone's hard work. I didn't do anything. The third Hokage's wrinkled face smiled like a chrysanthemum. Ha 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 ha. Modesty is a virtue, but excessive modesty is pride. There is a reward for merit. The reason why you were transferred from the front line so quickly is that I, an old man, want to see you earlier. The third Hokage took out a form from the drawer. Naoshu, you are still a genin, right? If other people knew that Konoha's battle hero is a genin, wouldn't it make people laugh? Naoshu quickly waved his hands. Hokage-sama, I think genin is pretty good. Really? The third generation smiled and handed the form in his hand to Naoshu. How can this be? Your merits have long exceeded those of ordinary jonin. This is a special application form. Although the number of missions you have may not be enough, because of your merits during the war, you can be specially approved to become a jonin. There is also such a thing. Thinking back to Naruto's future hard exams, isn't it too easy for me? And I didn't even feel what it was like to be a chunin, and became a jonin? Naoshu's mind was a little confused, and he took the form in a daze. Fill out the form as soon as possible, and I will approve it for you. Teacher, this is not very kind. Orochimaru interrupted the third generation's words, with a little contempt in his eyes. Naoshu's merits should not be satisfied with the empty name of becoming a jonin from a genin, right? Naoshu only reacted at this time. Good guy, this old man is a bit dark. The third generation wanted to borrow the power of the Hokage to directly promote Naoki to the rank of Jonin. Is the reward rich? Of course, because Jonin is the dream of countless ninjas. This is the limit for 99% of ninjas. But this reward is a bit tasteless for Naoki. As long as he can hold on for a few more years, Jonin will be within his reach. And once he gets this useless huge reward, after blocking Naoki's mouth, he can also show the Hokage's unconventionality. What a perfect script, but it was torn apart by Orochimaru's bloody words. The third generation glanced at Orochimaru. His eyes contained countless complex emotions. Of course there are other rewards, haha, don't be anxious. By the way, Orochimaru, how is your injury? In fact, the third generation has another purpose. Once Naoki is really promoted to Jonin in an instant, what do you think of other struggling Chunins and special Jonins? Even if Naoki really made contributions, never overestimate the darkness of people's hearts. Unless Naoki is like Naruto, who pulls all the people in a village back from death once, there will always be doubts. What's more, Rope Tree was thrown out of the village when he was old enough to understand. He had no companions or friends, which meant that he had no direct lineage. Even if his reputation was high, he would be rootless in a short period of time. This was the way the third generation solved the problem. Flattery. This was an open conspiracy, and even if Orochimaru saw it, it would still be useless. Rope Tree was a little bored at this moment looking at the form in his hand. He was no longer excited at the beginning and let Tsunade pull him back home. In the middle of the night, Rope Tree sat in the yard, looking at the moon quietly, not knowing what to think. Rope Tree. Tsunade changed into a slim kimono after returning home, holding 2 pots of wine in her hands, and threw 1 pot to Rope Tree. Tsunade opened the wine pot and gulped it down. Teacher was not like this before. He was really good to us before. I don't know why he became like this. Rope Tree sighed in his heart. Why else? Of course, it was the damn power. Rope Tree had higher pursuits in his heart, and power was more like a joke to him. But being used as a target like this still made him feel uncomfortable. Tsunade quickly finished a pot of wine and smashed the pot against the wall. Naoshu, if you really become the Hokage, will you change to me? Hokage? Naoshu then remembered that it seemed that when he was a child, it was in this yard that he made up a lie about becoming a Hokage, but he didn't expect Tsunade to still remember it. Naoshu looked into Tsunade's slightly tipsy eyes and said with a smile, don't worry, it won't happen. Naoshu just wanted to finish his own things and try his best to fill the regrets of this world. However, once someone keeps staring at him, he doesn't mind using the most brutal way to deal with them. Living is no longer what Naoshu pursues. From now on, he wants to live freely. Thank you for the reward from Ruomu. Thank you. Chapter 63, Union's Kindness. After Tsunade finished her own bottle of wine, she snatched Rope Tree's and drank it. Rope Tree suspected that she just wanted to drink. Carrying the heavy Tsunade back to the room, Rope Tree finally chose to fill out the form with the help of the oil lamp. Becoming a Jonin at least saves a lot of trouble. Moreover, the third generation and the others should not have imagined that the third Shinobi World War would come soon. At that time, the so-called flattery would be nonsense. Frontline range Shinobi battlefield. Because of the death of Hanzo of the Salamander, the ninjas of the range Shinobi lost their spiritual support. Even though Jiraiya was always playing soy sauce, Konoha was advancing rapidly. This day, Jiraiya's injury finally healed a little, so he went out to check the movements of the range Shinobi. Crack. Jiraiya was exploring when he heard the sound of dead branches being stepped on and broken in the cave in front. Who? Jiraiya was ready for battle, but when he saw that it was 3 children coming out, he slowly put down his hands. Sand Village battlefield. When the third generation Kazakage heard that Hanzo of the Salamander was killed, his hair almost turned half white overnight. Even if he could still suppress Hatake's Akumo, he knew that it was only a matter of time before he failed. The grandmother Chiyo beside the third Kazakage also lowered her head. The death of her son and daughter-in-law in battle was too much of a blow to her. Surrender? This thought flashed through the mind of the third Kazakage for the first time. The third Hokage Hatake the Sannin, and the kid who could use would release the third Hokage was not easy to deal with Hanzo, but if he really wanted to deal with the third Kazekage, he would have no diplomatic concerns. Hatake and the Sannin would definitely have the strength to fight him and Chio together. In addition, there was the Senju Rope Tree who killed the salamander Hanzo. I regret that I should have killed this man earlier. The third Kazekage was a little tired, and the entire Sand Village also seemed lifeless. Compared to the dilemma of Sand Village, the Cloud Village reacted very quickly and quickly expressed goodwill to Konoha. The Cloud Village sent an exchange team and agreed to come to Konoha. Cloud Village? When Naoki heard the news, he reacted instantly. It was the moment of young Daimo's flirting. The hidden Cloud Village knew that the Uzumaki clan, who had the best container, lived in Konoha, so they wanted to snatch Uzumaki Kushina back for experiments. But young Daimoi was too rebellious and snatched her wife back from the hidden Cloud Village, causing the hidden Cloud Village's plan to fail. Interesting. Naoki looked at Tsunade. So the village meant for me to welcome the hidden Cloud Village team? If it were normal times, Naoki would definitely refuse such a boring task, but if there was something to eat, it wouldn't hurt to go. After Naoki took on the task, he completed the registration of the Jonin identity. He came to the border with the Land of Lightning and waited for the hidden Cloud Village team. Here they come. Naoki also had a Hyuga clan with Byakugan on his side, and he saw the team in the distance a long time ago. Naoki was a little envious for a moment. Apart from anything else, bug level skills such as telescopes and perspective are the dream of every man. At least Jiraiya would definitely be willing to transplant a pair. Rope Tree came to the Hyuga clan ninja and asked, "Brother, are you from the main family or the branch family?" The Hyuga clan ninja was a little flattered. After all, Rope Tree was in the limelight at this time, but after hearing the question asked by Rope Tree, he felt bad. "My lord, I'm from the branch family." Rope Tree saw the other party's embarrassment, but at the same time he was a little disappointed. Rope Tree looked at the other party. "Come on, the Hyuga clan is very strong. Even if it is a branch family, you must insist on being yourself." The Hyuga ninja was stunned. No one had ever told him this since he was a child. For a branch family who had been instilled with the need to protect the main family since he was a child, he didn't know how to respond for a while. Rope Tree didn't tease the Hyuga ninja anymore. After all, he was afraid that the Hyuga clan would come to settle accounts with him. If he continued to talk, the Hyuga clan needs to be slowly beaten to let them know that they cannot put the interests of the family above the village. Otherwise it will be their turn sooner or later after the demise of Uchiha. At this time, Naoki also saw the team of Kumogakuya. There were not many people, but from the murderous aura on them, he could feel that they were all elite. "Stop!" Naoki shouted, jumped up, and came to the front of the Kumogakuya team. Naoki carefully looked at the Kumogakuya team. 3 Jonin and 5 Chunins, all with wounds all over their bodies, obviously experienced in many battles. This lean and powerful team did not look like they were here to communicate with kindness, but rather like they were carrying out a secret mission. The Jonin headed by the Kumogakuya village clasped his fists and looked at Naoki. "We are from the Kumogakuya village and came to Konoha to learn and communicate. We have already sent a letter to you. I wonder who you are?" Naoki smiled and showed his big white teeth. "I see. I'm Senju Naoki. Please take care of me." Senju Naoki. The 5 people from the Kumogakuya village were all shocked. Several Chunins were sweating on their foreheads. Rope Tree laughed. "I'm not a monster. I'm sent by Konoha to welcome you. Let's go." With prepared dishes and wine, the leading Kumogakuya Jonin had a guilty conscience, and when he met Rope Tree, who had just killed the demigod of the ninja world, Hanzo, his scalp was a little numb. Rope Tree fulfilled his duties along the way and happily sent everyone to Konoha safely. "Thank you, Rope Tree. You're welcome. You're welcome." Rope Tree narrowed his eyes. "How can you feel tired when you have melons to eat?" Konoha obviously wanted to cheer up people with the visit of Kumogakuya, and the welcome ceremony was particularly grand, which made Rope Tree want to laugh. I really don't know what expression the 3 generations should have when they learned that Kushina was kidnapped. I don't know if the ninjas of Kumogakure walked very fast because they couldn't stand Rope Tree's narrow eyes eating melons along the way, or because they felt the grand welcome ceremony of Konoha. Rope Tree did not participate in the subsequent activities, but quietly came to the ninja school. Because of Rope Tree, Konoha did not continue to be involved in a protracted war, which gave the children of the ninja school more time. Minato's class, which was supposed to graduate, still had 1 year to graduate, but many ninjas who were not inferior to the genin could already be seen. This class can be called the golden generation of Konoha. Not only did it give birth to Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, the Ninetales Jinchuriki, there is also a new generation of Ino Shikachou, which is full of talents. Rope Tree was a little confused, because it was 3 Jonins who kidnapped Kushina. Although Minato was amazing, it was impossible for him to knock down 3 Jonins at this age, right? Not to mention that Minato had not yet learned his famous skill Flying Thunder God, and attacking 3 Jonins was just a waste of time. Rope Tree suddenly realized that this melon might be bigger than he thought. The water in Konoha is a bit deep. Chapter 64 Kushina's disappearance. The welcome ceremony of Konoha was very grand for ordinary villagers, but for the students of the ninja school, they just felt it was noisy. Because she was an orphan, Kushina Uzumaki lived alone. On this day, she returned home as usual, and started to prepare instant noodles. People who eat, souls who eat, people who eat are the best. Kushina hummed a ballad, and was about to pour the boiling water into the bucket. Suddenly, she noticed something was wrong around her. Except for Naruto, almost all members of the Uzumaki clan were born perception ninjas. She turned around and saw a few wretched men on the roof staring at her. Danger. Although Kushina was crazy, she was not stupid. She hurriedly ran outside and shouted, "Help!" But the speed of the 3 Jonin was not something Kushina could resist. She was soon caught up and knocked unconscious. After the Cloud Village succeeded, they began to flee without any hesitation. And Minato also came to knock on his friend's door half an hour later. But after knocking several times, no one responded. Minato hurriedly pushed open the door, only to see the messy furniture in the house. Something happened to Kushina. Minato searched carefully again and quickly reported to his class teacher. The class teacher did not know the special identity of Uzumaki Kushina, but after all, she was his student, so he quickly reported it to the 3rd Hokage. The 3rd Hokage quickly ordered the whole village to be on alert and began to look for Kushina. The most active among them was Minato. Minato estimated the time period between the time of school dismissal and the time of the crime, and guessed that, if someone really kidnapped Kushina, she must have left the village. Kushina was being held hostage by the Kumogakure ninja at this time. But the Kumogakure ninja obviously did not expect the Uzumaki clan's perverted physique to be so strong. Kushina quickly woke up while lying on the back of the Kumogakure ninja. The Kumogakure ninja threw Kushina down, causing Kushina to bite a mouthful of mud. Be honest. The Kumogakure ninja tied Kushina's hands tightly behind her back and did not forget to kick her. However, Kushina did not say anything, but quietly pulled off the red hair that she hated the most and threw it on the ground. Kushina knew that she was not popular with people on weekdays, and doing this was just a fantasy in her heart. No one will come to save me, right? But it is obvious that some people are born to be the protagonist. Minato, who was looking for Kushina, soon found the hair that Kushina had dropped. Over there. Minato hurriedly ran in one direction along the red hair, and behind Minato, a figure was following quietly. The speed of the cloud-hidden village was very fast, and they soon arrived at the border of the Land of Fire, after working day and night. Almost. Hold on. A cloud-hidden village cheered his companion. At this moment, a Kune shot from behind, and the cloud-hidden village received a box lunch in an instant. The other 2 cloud-hidden villages were shocked, but soon, the 2 of them also blurred their eyes and lost consciousness. They actually solved the opponent with just a simple sneak attack and Kune. Rope Tree was madly complaining at this moment. What the hell? The protagonist's halo should not be opened like this, right? Genin kills 3 Jonin instantly? Even a brainless and cool story wouldn't dare to write like this. Following behind Minato was Rope Tree, who wanted to eat melons. Rope Tree rubbed his eyes hard, a little absent-minded. Is the gap between him and the protagonist so big? If I had the protagonist's halo, I would dare to challenge Madara right now. Minato was not stupid either. He knew that this was the border, so he quickly carried the exhausted Kushina away. Rope Tree shook his head, shocked by the power of the protagonist's halo, and planned to leave. At this moment, something strange happened. The three corpses actually moved. The Kumogakure who was shot through by Minato stood up first. Damn, if others knew that we were knocked down by this kid, I'm afraid they would laugh their heads off. The other two Kumogakure advised, forget it, it's all a mission. I just think the moment you were shot through was particularly real. Yeah, your fall to the ground was just like the real thing. I wish I could die as cool as you. Rope Tree, hiding in the dark, swallowed nervously. Damn. Big melon. Really big melon. Could it be that Minato hired a professional actor to pick up girls? The Kumogakure below patted the dirt on his body. Work. Quickly change direction and retreat. The other two companions took out two scrolls and opened the seals on them. It was the bodies of the Kumogakure Sannin. The real Kumogakure Sannin. The standing Kumogakure disguised the bodies of the three people as if they were beaten to death by Minato and arranged them neatly. After the three people faked the scene, they quickly retreated in another direction. After they left, Rope Tree checked the three bodies. It was indeed the Kumogakure Jonin he escorted. And judging from the state of the bodies, they should have been treated after death. The real time of death was probably in Konoha village. Rope Tree narrowed his eyes and ignored the Minato couple who were running wildly, but chased in the direction the three people had just fled. The three people fled for a while before removing their disguises. Although they didn't bring forehead protectors, the familiar green vest was unique to Konoha. It really is Konoha's people. Rope Tree quickly located a wretched old face in his mind. No matter what happened, Danzo was a prime suspect. The three were really cautious. They went around in circles before pretending to be looking for Kushina and searching in a hurry. Naoki was amazed. Just look at their superb acting skills. They were not the kind of extras who didn't deserve a name. Sasuke, we shouldn't arouse suspicion, right? Of course not. Yeah. The three looked at Naoki who appeared above their heads. Naoki smiled and threw out three branches to tie them up. Everyone, please excuse me for a moment. The moment the three were tied up by Naoki, they secretly thought it was bad. Lord Naoki, what does this mean? We are the Anbu directly under the Hokage. We are searching for missing students. Anbu? Naoki looked at the three with a smile. The branches that tied the three were tightened. The man in the lead, named Sasuke, looked ready to die. I didn't expect the so-called hero to be such a person. He actually attacked the Anbu directly. Have you betrayed the village? Senju Naoki. Even if you are the grandson of the first Hokage, attacking the Anbu is a capital crime. For the Hokage. Kill me. I won't say anything. Seeing the other party shouting like a martyr, Naoki was confused. Good guy, the villain complained first. Sasuke, right? Do you know Oscar? Huh? Sasuke looked at Naoki in confusion. Naoki heard a sound not far away. Obviously someone was coming, so he released a little poison powder, and the three people immediately fell into a coma. Naoki brought the three unconscious people to a cave and touched the three people with some ill intentions. Chapter 65 Big Melon. But Naoki was a little disappointed. None of the three people were carrying any important information. But this made things even more suspicious. Naoki racked his brains, but couldn't figure out what the point of killing the three Kumogakure was. Intensify the conflict between Konoha and Kumogakure, then while let Kushina go. Judging from the reactions of these three people, even if Minato didn't come in the end, he would probably find a way to let Kushina go. Naoki looked at the three people who were still unconscious, first opened their mouths, carefully checked whether there was any poison, and then woke up the three people. The three people looked at the dim cave and the devil like Naoki, and bitterness surged in their hearts. Tell me, what is your purpose in killing Kumogakure? I saw it all. Seeing that Sasuke was still trying to quibble, Naoki didn't hesitate, and slapped him directly. Pa. A loud slap. At the same time, several teeth were pulled out. The eyes of the three people have turned into horror. Naoki looked at the three people with a smile. I haven't been in the village for a long time, so you may not be familiar with me. I'm honored to tell you that I'm not a good person. Rope Tree has changed in the years he has been with Orochimaru. He is no longer the little devil who can't bear to take action when he sees others happy and contented. The so-called smile is just a disguise, and under the disguise is the darkness that no one can see. In order to achieve his goal, Rope Tree does not mind using some extreme means. Rope Tree uses wood release to summon several wooden thorns. Still not telling, the three people did not dare to look into Rope Tree's eyes and lowered their heads. Sasuke and the others knew from Rope Tree's words that they were being followed. Alas. Rope Tree looked at the three people's righteous performance and slowly approached with the wooden thorns. Rope Tree took Sasuke's hand and kneaded it gently. I can see that you are a tough guy, but I don't know if you can withstand it. Withstand what? But the next moment, the three people understood. In the eyes of 6 terrified people, Rope Tree inserted a slender wooden thorn directly into the male of Sasuke. Ah! A howling sound like a pig being slaughtered sounded. Sasuke screamed madly. 10 fingers are connected to the heart. This may be more painful than breaking a hand or a foot. And Shengshu had no intention of stopping. Several other wooden thorns pierced into Sasuke's nails one after another. Sasuke's hands were already bleeding. He stared at Shengshu with red eyes. Give me a quick death. Shengshu looked at him in surprise. Don't say that. It makes me look like a pervert. Crack. 4 sharp branches pierced through Sasuke's limbs respectively. The huge pain made Sasuke want to curl up his body, but the 4 branches had already penetrated the ground, nailing him to the ground like nails. Leaving Sasuke screaming on the ground, Shengshu came in front of the other 2, holding a wooden thorn in his hand, smiling and narrowing his eyes. Are you still not going to say it? The other 2 people felt a chill. Sasuke's voice was like a symphony of hell, constantly destroying the psychological defenses of the 2. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. One of the slightly fat ninjas knelt down directly. We were assigned by Master Shoichi to do this. Shoichi. Rope Tree searched in his mind, but there was no such person in reality. The kneeling ninja carefully added, Uchiha Shoichi. Uchiha. Rope Tree's brows tightened again. He thought that Danzo wanted to intensify the conflict between Konoha and Kumogakuya. Uchiha. Why would they kill people from Kumogakuya for no reason? Rope Tree couldn't figure out the connection, so he looked at the 2 of them. Tell me everything you know. The kneeling ninja was also a smart man. He didn't dare to make conditions and told everything. But it was obvious that this guy was just a glove. He didn't know anything deeper. He only knew that Uchiha Shoichi asked them to hold Kushina hostage and bring the body of Kumogakuya to cover up the truth. He didn't know much more about this matter than Rope Tree. He was just a worker. But he brought a big melon of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Hiya was seriously ill. Uchiha Masachi and his brother Uchiha Teiji seemed to have conflicts with Uchiha Fugaku, the second generation of the family with a good family background. Uchiha Masachi is now the deputy captain of the Konoha Guard, and his strength seems to have reached the quasi-cage level. Although Fugaku has made rapid progress, there is still a gap between him and Uchiha Masachi. Not to mention that Uchiha Masachi has an equally powerful brother. Is it an internal conflict in the Uchiha family? Naoki is a little puzzled. This kind of major event should be recorded in the original work. Why don't I have any impression of it? What Naoki doesn't know is that because the Second Ninja World War in the previous life lasted for 10 years, Uchiha Fugaku naturally became a cage level after the war ended and directly suppressed the entire clan. Now, the Uchiha clan needs a powerful ninja who can suppress the entire clan internally and suppress the enemy externally behind Uchiha Fire Valley. In this way, ambitious people like Uchiha Masachi will continue to emerge, and they must have a large number of people supporting them. But Naoki still can't figure out why Uchiha Masachi did this. If a war breaks out in Konoha Kumogakuya, then Uchiha will go back to the old ways, which will do nothing but harm to him, an ambitious man. Why is that? Noace decided to go back and contact Fugaku to see what the other party is up to. The ninjas kneeling on the ground looked at Noace eagerly, and Noace smiled and said, "You know my last name is Senju, right? It's not good to let outsiders know that a fighting hero of the Senju clan tortured the ninjas of his own village. So please die." 3 branches wrapped around the necks of the 3 people, ending their lives. Noace collapsed the cave again, pretending that it collapsed naturally and covered the traces with some leaves, and then turned around and rushed back to the village. Minato was naturally rewarded by the village for saving Kushina, which also made the third generation involuntarily relieved and remembered this little boy with golden hair. But it was really hard to reward a student who was not even a genin, so in the end it was the third generation who decided to let Minato choose a ninjutsu from the Book of Seals. For a civilian ninja, a powerful ninjutsu is undoubtedly something that can change his fate. Minato held a huge scroll and studied it carefully for a while and saw the name of a ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God Technique. It's you. Little son's aesthetic taste is naturally that the more explosive the name, the better. Others such as Impure World Reincarnation, Darkness Walking Technique, Shadow Clone Technique all look so ordinary. Flying Thunder God. How coquettish. No one would have thought that the future Yellow Flash 4th Hokage who would dominate the ninja world actually chose the Flying Thunder God technique because of the cool name. Chapter 66, Haggard Uchiha Fugaku. After returning to the village, Naoki pretended to celebrate and immediately went to the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha guard at the door looked at Naoki warily. Who is it? Naoki looked at the Uchiha helplessly. Can you be a little nicer? No wonder Uchiha people are beaten by everyone they see. Senju Naoki, I'm here to see your young clan leader. Go and report it. After a while, Uchiha Fugaku walked out. The young man who was full of vigor and vitality in the past seemed a little haggard and saw Naoki forced a smile. Hey, isn't this a great hero? You actually have time to come to see me? Naoki looked at Fugaku's hair with disdain, which seemed to have not been washed for several days, and threw a box over. I didn't give you a gift for your wedding, so I'm making up for it. Well, the gift is small, but the sentiment is great. This is what Naoki bought at a roadside stall for 10 yuan. Fugaku weighed the box in his hand and realized that it was not a valuable thing. He laughed dryly and led Naoki into the Uchiha clan. As soon as he entered the door, Naoki looked at a telephone pole in the middle of the street. Fugaku looked at Naoki strangely. Why are you looking at a telephone pole? Haha. Naoki laughed dryly. It's okay. It's okay. After all, it is a landmark building of Naruto. Your future son will act like a fool here. Fugaku's home is located in the core area of the Uchiha clan. When people around saw Fugaku, some greeted him enthusiastically, while others sneered. But when they saw Naoki following behind, their faces changed. Even if someone didn't know Naoki, there were Uchiha who were willing to help popularize science. Not to mention the record of killing Hanzo. The two words Senju alone were enough to cause an uproar in the Uchiha. When he arrived at home, Fugaku shouted, I'm back. At this time, a gentle female voice came. Welcome back. A woman with long hair and a pretty face walked out of the inner room. Let me introduce you, Naoki. This is my wife, Uchiha Makoto. Makoto, this is Senju Naoki. Uchiha Makoto looked at Naoki curiously, but still bowed politely. Welcome Naoki-kun, I'll go make some tea. Naoki looked at Fugaku with even more contempt. Makoto is still so young. So she was still a loli when she married Fugaku, right? Ha, man. Fugaku took Naoki to the living room and knelt down. If you're here to fight me, I may not be free for the time being. Naoki glanced at Fugaku with his eyes slanted. It was you who said you wanted to fight me, right? And you really can't beat me now. Unless Fugaku has opened his manger key, he is just a younger brother in Naoki's eyes. Fugaku smiled bitterly. That's right, at least Salamander Hanzo is definitely not something he can deal with. Besides, don't fight and kill all day long. The real strong ones fight as little as possible. This is also normal. If you fight all day long, you will expose your true colors sooner or later. Once you are targeted, you will be dead. Fugaku patted his face and tried to cheer himself up. Then what are you here for? Don't tell me you are just catching up. Naoki looked out the window, and Fugaku immediately understood and walked over to close the window. Naoki told Fugaku the news he had received before. Kill Kumogaku? Fugaku stood up directly after hearing this, his face gloomy. So you know what happened? Naoki looked at Fugaku curiously. Fugaku looked at Naoki. You really don't know? Obviously, they have joined forces with others. Naoki's mind flashed. Yes. Uchiha Shoichi is at best a quasi-Kage, not a high-level Konoha. It is not so easy for him to kill the messenger sent by Kumogaku without anyone noticing. You mean someone from Konoha's high-ranking officials teamed up with your mortal enemy to deal with you? Fugaku's expression was somewhat stern. Yes, although I don't know if Kumogaku really has other intentions. It is the fault of the security department to let Kumogaku kidnap a child in the village. It's just that no one is aware of this problem now. It can even be said that this matter can be big or small, but once someone really makes a fuss. Rope Tree also followed Fugaku's thinking. Once the Hokage department really investigates this matter, the already weak Uchiha may find it difficult to stop it. The worst result is likely that the Hokage department will take advantage of his illness to kill him and directly take away the control of the security department. In this way, Fugaku, who is in charge at this time, is undoubtedly the sinner of the Uchiha clan and the clan leader. It's good enough if he is not beaten to death. In other words, Uchiha Shoichi made a deal with the Konoha high-ranking officials, using the security department in exchange for the position of the clan leader of the Uchiha clan. Rope Tree almost wanted to laugh. This kind of operation comparable to seeking the skin of a tiger can only be done by the Uchiha. Uchiha Fugaku was also a little uncertain. Although Uchiha Masashi has been competing with him. But it is the family affair of the Uchiha clan after all. Once Konoha is involved, it will be a clan treason. Looking at the overwhelmed Fugaku, Naoki was a little amused. You are just guessing. Maybe it is something else. Fugaku glared at Naoki. Otherwise, either your information is wrong, or they are really letting the wolf in. Naoki coughed twice awkwardly. I'm still here. I should also be considered a member of the Hokage's side, right? It's not good for the Hokage to say that. Fugaku may still have some doubts in his mind, but people who are caught in power struggles would rather kill 100 people by mistake than let one go. If Uchiha Masashi really colluded with the people of the Hokage, it would be a complete disaster for the Uchiha. Now that Uchiha Masashi has started to act, it means that the horn of battle has been blown. And what is the biggest reliance on his side? At this time, Uchiha Makoto also brewed a pot of tea and brought it to Naoki. Naoki couldn't help but tease. Fugaku, when are you going to have a child? Fugaku smiled bitterly. Before, it was because of the war, and now it's like this. Alas. Makoto looked shy. Naoki took a sip of tea and immediately felt a fragrance overflowing, and the fragrance lingered on his lips and teeth. Good tea. As expected of the young patriarch of the Uchiha clan, this tea must be very precious. So Naoki picked up the teapot and started drinking cup after cup. You have to work hard and try to be a father. Dad? Fugaku felt that this word seemed to be a little far away from him after hearing it. Wait. Fugaku slammed the table fiercely. I know. The aftershock caused by the fist made Naoki choke on a big mouthful of tea. Naoki looked at Fugaku with dissatisfaction, and the message conveyed by his eyes was very clear. What the hell are you crazy about? Fugaku stared into Naoki's eyes and said word by word. Dad. What? Naoki couldn't control himself this time, and a mouthful of tea sprayed on Fugaku's face. Fugaku wiped it without caring. The three Magatama in his eyes had already appeared, and he gritted his teeth and said, they are going to attack my father. Chapter 67 Joining Forces. Scared to death. I thought you wanted to recognize me as your father. Naoki was a little speechless. Nonsense. They sold out your Uchiha, not to mention an old clan leader. Now the biggest obstacle for Uchiha Shoichi is not you at all, but your father, Uchiha Huotani. After all, he has been in charge of Uchiha for so many years, and his prestige is there. Otherwise, you Uchiha have always been strong and respected, and he would just beat you up. But it is obvious that he not only wants to beat you up, but also wants to discredit you by the way, so as to affect your father. TSK, did you offend someone somewhere, killing people and destroying their hearts? Fugaku was a little anxious and was about to go out in a panic, but Naoki stopped him. Don't worry, don't you have me? You? Fugaku looked at Naoki in surprise. I didn't expect that you, a guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would also betray the organization. Naoki felt that he did nothing wrong. Perhaps in the eyes of the Konoha high-level officials, a weak Uchiha is a good Uchiha. But it also depends on who is leading the Uchiha.
Although Naoki is not familiar with Uchiha Shoichi, he knows that he is an old shaman by looking at his style. In comparison, Fugaku is a conscientious person. After all, no matter how bad a child like Itachi is, he can't be that bad. Fugaku looked at Naoki in confusion. I thought you were the kind of ascetic, but I didn't expect you to be interested in these struggles. Naoki retorted, at my point, it's no longer under my control. You should be able to see that I can't stay in the village at all. Of course, I have conditions. Fugaku was relieved when he heard Naoki say that he had conditions. Of course, he wanted to win over Naoki, who is so powerful, but no matter how he looked at it, Naoki would not benefit from this struggle. Fugaku didn't want Naoki to help him for free. After all, free things are often the most expensive. Fugaku thought for a while, as long as it doesn't harm the interests of Uchiha, I will try my best to satisfy you. Naoki smiled unusually brightly. I want the eyes of Uchiha Shoichi and Uchiha Teiji. Naoki was refreshed when he came out of the Uchiha clan. He originally wanted to make trouble for Danzo, but when he heard that it was related to Uchiha, he became excited. When he heard that the Uchiha who were causing trouble were actually a pair of brothers, he was simply taking off. It is not easy to find a lone Hyuga clan member, but there are a lot of Uchiha brothers, aren't there? However, it is still rare to find Uchiha brothers with the strength of Quasi Shadow. Nowadays, it is really the case that, if you don't take the road to heaven, you will break into hell. Good news. Sharingan, here I come. As soon as Naoki left, someone reported the matter to Uchiha Shoichi. Senju Naoki? Uchiha Teiji stood beside Uchiha Shoichi, his brows twisted into a shape. Brother, the Senju clan may have come with bad intentions at this time. Uchiha Masakazu was calm and comforted his brother. Don't worry, the matter of Senju Naoki is not our headache. Someone should be unable to hold back. Maybe that person is ready to take action? Haha, the so-called bright Konoha Uchiha Masakazu really colluded with the Konoha high-level officials. Brother, what should we do? Uchiha Masakazu took out a piece of information and handed it to Uchiha Teiji. It's very simple. Use public opinion pressure to force Uchiha Fugaku to admit his mistakes and let the clan members know his incompetence. Send a message to the chess piece of Kumogaku and ask him to withdraw. The intelligence that Kumogaku is going to take action against this girl shows that he must have taken a great risk. Hey! Uchiha Masakazu lay on the chair but did not dare to relax at all. He knew that Uchiha Fugaku was just an appetizer, and his real opponent was a sick tiger. Patriarch, you are old. Let me lead the Uchiha in the right direction. Not long after, a message spread among the people of Konoha. Kumogaku sent people to capture a child from Konoha. And that child was from the Uzumaki clan, the same clan as the wife of the first Hokage. The people of Konoha were immediately outraged. First, it was aimed at civilians. Now many children of civilians are studying in ninja schools, and no one wants their children to be in danger. Second, it was aimed at the wealthy families of Konoha. The influence of the first generation cannot be ignored in these wealthy families. The same clan of the first generation's wife was captured. What do you think these wealthy families think? Shouldn't Konoha protect these descendants of meritorious people who shed blood for Konoha? Everyone has a low point, and even the members of the Uzumaki clan were allowed to be captured. So what should we do? If the safety of future generations cannot be guaranteed, who will work for you in Konoha? The huge pressure of public opinion must have an outlet. Kumogaku. No one wants to get involved in another war, not to mention that Konoha has just emerged from the quagmire of a war. Hokage? Bullshit. The great third Hokage has just led the village to victory, and he must be very busy. Your conscience has been eaten by a dog. It is understandable that the Hokage is a little negligent. Does a Hokage have to observe every villager in detail? Huh. While let people from other villages come and go freely in Konoha. Who will protect the villagers and ensure the safety of their lives and property? Oh, it turned out to be the gatekeeper Uchiha. No wonder. Scold him. Compared with Kumogaku and the Hokage, Uchiha is undoubtedly the soft persimmon, and with the guidance of some people, Uchiha has become the target again. To be honest, Uchiha is indeed a little resentful this time. In the state of public outrage, the third Hokage had no choice to hold a meeting of Konoha's senior management.
As the head of Konoha's security department, Uchiha must also come out to attend this meeting. Uchiha looked coldly at the few Konoha high-ranking officials who came. Except for Hatake Tsukumo, who was still in the Sand Village battlefield, almost all of them were present. The matter of Kumogakure was just a small mistake. Small mistake? Danzo said sarcastically. If it was your son who was kidnapped this time, would you say it was a small mistake? Uchiha began to scowl. At this time, the third generation came out to smooth things over. Danzo, don't be so harsh on Hiya. Hiya has been seriously ill. It's normal for him to be a little lax. Danzo sneered. Then who is in charge of the Konoha security department now? Could it be your son, Hiya? Good guy. Danzo and the third generation played the good cop and the bad cop, making Uchiha's face red. Uchiha's body seemed to have really reached its limit. Under the pressure of Danzo's words, he actually coughed up blood and fainted. Now it was the third generation and Danzo's turn to be dumbfounded, and they hurriedly called Tsunade to stabilize Uchiha's condition. Of course, the beating ended in vain, and they had no choice but to escort Uchiha back to the Uchiha clan territory. Chapter 68 Action. Uchiha returned to the clan with his last breath, and the Uchiha clan was immediately in uproar. Fugaku knelt in front of the bed, looking at the shocking blood on his father's chest, and an endless sense of sadness surged in his heart. Fugaku's eyes were a little moist, and Hiya's voice suddenly came. Silly child, why are you crying? Uchiha seemed to have recovered some strength. He held Fugaku's hand. The hero who had been in charge of Uchiha for decades was like an ordinary old man at this time. I did it on purpose in the meeting just now. The third generation was cunning and wanted to force me to hand over the security department. I had no choice but to deliberately vomit blood, causing the meeting to be interrupted. Fugaku was overjoyed. Father, are you okay? Uchiha shook his head with a wry smile. My disease is really terminal. It is a rare genetic disease. Fortunately, you, Fugaku, have no signs of illness. I know what Shoichi and Teiji are thinking. They think I'm old and can't lift a knife anymore. But even so, I still hope that Fugaku will not let Uchiha fall into internal strife. Fugaku felt mixed emotions and didn't know how to evaluate his father. Now it's not him who wants other people's lives, but others who want his life. How could my father, who has been wise and brave all his life, become confused in the end? Sorry, father, it's not up to me now. Fugaku had to comfort his father and send more confidants to protect his father. Rope Tree also received Fugaku's news soon. Do you want to strike first? Rope Tree laughed. Fugaku is not a fool. The current situation is that Uchiha Masakazu and Konoha have joined forces to kill him. Now the only thing Fugaku can do is to draw his sword. The brave wins when two meet on a narrow road. When a person's life is threatened, the energy he bursts out is absolutely terrifying. Naoki came to the Uchiha clan quietly, wanting to see how Fugaku would solve this crisis. Late at night, Fugaku and Naoki met in a dark basement. I want to defeat them separately. Tomorrow I will lure Uchiha Masakazu and Uchiha Teiji to separate, and I will go to deal with the stronger Uchiha Masakazu. Naoki asks you to kill Uchiha Teiji as quickly as possible. Naoki frowned. This plan was too hasty. Not to mention that Uchiha Masakazu must have a lot of direct lineage protection when he goes out, even if it is just talking about strength. Fugaku is not Uchiha Masakazu's opponent. So you have to kill Uchiha Teiji as soon as possible. Good guy. Do you trust me so much? Well, although Uchiha Teiji is quite strong and is one of the best among the Jonin, he still has a chance to kill the opponent in a short time if he bursts out with all his strength. For the sake of the two people's eyes, Naoki must fight. The next day, Uchiha Masachi looked at a letter in his hand with interest. Fugaku is so confident. He wants to meet with me? Then go. Uchiha Teiji beside him was a little worried. Brother, will there be an ambush? Uchiha Masachi laughed a few times. I'm afraid he doesn't have an ambush. Otherwise, how can I take action against this young clan leader? Teiji, you stay here to guard. I'll go to meet this young clan leader. Uchiha Masachi summoned the power in his hands, and more than 10 Jonins protected Uchiha Masachi. No wonder Uchiha Masachi is not afraid of Fugaku. This is almost half of the Uchiha's power, and they all chose to support Uchiha Masashi. And more than 10 Jonin. This also explains what the foundation of Konoha's first clan is. After Uchiha Shoichi left, Uchiha Teiji felt a little uneasy, but because of his brother's instructions, he didn't dare to leave. My lord. It's not good. A person suddenly ran into Uchiha Teiji's room. This person was one of the earliest clan members who joined Uchiha Shoichi, and Uchiha Teiji was also very familiar with him. My lord. Uchiha Fugaku has an ambush. Uchiha Hiei has been faking injuries. The father and son are fighting with Master Shoichi together, and Master Shoichi is seriously injured. What? Uchiha Teiji didn't expect that Uchiha Fugaku's confidence was actually his father. Uchiha Hiei is a serious old-fashioned cage. If it was really a fake injury, this can also explain why Fugaku didn't know the danger of life and death, and challenged his eldest brother. Quick, take me over. Uchiha Teiji anxiously asked the other party to lead the way. As a brother control, his brother's crisis undoubtedly made Uchiha Teiji lose his composure. Uchiha Teiji followed the other party and quickly left the clan. But the more Uchiha Teiji walked, the more he felt something was wrong. Brother doesn't seem to be going this way. Hey, did you take the wrong road? The Uchiha clan member didn't say anything, but his speed suddenly increased a bit. Hey, stop right there. Uchiha Teiji's speed also increased, but the next moment, boom. A huge white light flashed, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Huh. You can actually take this move. Underestimated you. The white light disappeared, and Naoki, holding a short knife, looked at Uchiha Teiji opposite him and was amazed. It's still because I haven't practiced enough. If it was Lord Tsukumo who chopped you, you would have been beheaded. Naoki shook his head regretfully and put the short knife back into the scabbard. Uchiha Teiji was already sweating coldly. Just now, when he realized something was wrong, he instantly opened his Sharingan, and only then did he catch the trace of the knife just now. He resisted hastily, otherwise he would have died. Uchiha Teiji panted, looking at Noace in shock. The Sharingan in his eyes turned wildly. How could it be you? Noace looked at him with a smile. Why can't it be me? You can find external help, but can't Fugaku? Uchiha Teiji didn't expect it to be Noace. An existence that just killed a demigod in the ninja world. Brother, you are careless. Noace looked at the 3 Megatama Sharingan in Uchiha Teiji's eyes curiously. Did you block my attack just now, because of these eyes? It's really a good ability. Uchiha Teiji stared at Noace, and big beads of sweat dripped down his head. Whether it was Noace's record or the knife just now, he knew that he was invincible. The gap was too big. Then there was only that one move, fire style, Great Fire Extinguishment. Uchiha Teiji took the lead in using the fire style ninjutsu, and after quickly completing the seal, a wall of fire spit out from Uchiha Teiji's mouth. Looking at the small wall of fire attacking him, and then thinking about the great fire annihilation of Madara-sama against the ninja coalition, it is simply a world of difference. Wood style, wood wall, a wooden cylinder wrapped around rope tree. Although I really want to feel the power of the Sharingan, I have another battle to fight, so I can only finish you off as soon as possible. After the wall of fire passed, Rope Tree stuck his head out of the barrel. Rope Tree clasped his palms together, and the divine robe behind him moved without wind. Wood style, Tree World Advent. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Izanagi. Even a lion will use all its strength to fight a rabbit. Rope Tree started with a clean and tidy full screen move. Countless branches rose from the ground, like giant arms attacking Uchiha Teiji. Uchiha Teiji was extremely embarrassed by this move. At this moment, he suddenly understood why his ancestor Uchiha Madara could not beat the first generation of Hokage. Madara, I don't admit that there are no descendants of Gundam. Uchiha Teiji barely avoided Rope Tree's attack with the capture ability of the Sharingan, but Rope Tree was best at taking advantage of his weakness to kill him. Wood Release, Wood Dragon Technique. The Wood Dragon Technique at this time is completely different from the previous Wood Dragon Technique. The previous Wood Dragon was at most the thickness of a bucket, and at most 10 meters. The current wood dragon is an invincible dragon that is ferocious in the world. The wood dragon is faster and more powerful than the branches. The huge dragon head bites Uchiha Taiji. Puff. One of Uchiha Taiji's arms was directly buried in the mouth of the wood dragon, and countless blood burst out from the wound. Uchiha Taiji looked back at the terrifying scene of countless branches flying around behind him, but he had no idea what to do. Uchiha without the manger key was almost helpless in the face of large-scale ninjutsu. The Uchiha clan was better at individual duels, using the Sharingan's capture to restrict the enemy. But now, capture is useless. Uchiha Taiji endured the severe pain and made a seal with one hand. Ninjutsu, summoning technique. A giant eagle with a fiery red body appeared. Uchiha Taiji jumped onto the giant eagle, and the giant eagle screamed and was about to soar into the sky. Rope tree controlled the giant dragon to raise its head. Wood release, cutting technique. Sharp branches spit out from the mouth of the wooden dragon, and the intensive attack finally hit the giant eagle. The giant eagle screamed and fell straight from the sky to the ground. Done. Rope tree saw the pool of blood and flesh where the giant eagle fell, suppressed his excitement, and walked forward. But something strange happened. A figure appeared in the flesh and blood and fled quickly into the distance. Uchiha Taiji. He didn't die after falling from such a height. No. Rope tree saw that the arm that was torn off just now was intact on Uchiha Taiji's body. Could it be? A round eye appeared between Rope Tree's eyebrows, and he instantly entered the Sage mode. Rope Tree's speed soared, and soon caught up with Uchiha Taiji again, and a kunai pierced through Uchiha Taiji's chest. Unexpectedly, Uchiha Taiji stood up again, and rushed forward with his head held high. Looking at Uchiha Taiji who was resurrected again, Rope Tree gritted his teeth and said, Izanaji. The forbidden technique of the Uchiha clan. At the moment of its launch, the state of the caster himself will be recorded with the Sharingan, and then within the effective time of the technique, any damage suffered by the caster, even including the death of the caster, can be physically restored to the state recorded by the Sharingan. The price is that one eye will lose the light forever. Rope Tree was very angry. What is his purpose? It's all for Uchiha Shoichi and Uchiha Heiha's Sharingan. Rope Tree didn't expect Uchiha Taiji to be so decisive, and immediately recalled Uchiha Taiji's actions in his mind. When releasing the Great Fire Extinguishing, his vision was blocked. That moment was the best moment for Uchiha Taiji to record himself. Uchiha Taiji, you deserve to die. Uchiha Shoichi quickly rushed to the place he had agreed with Fugaku. This is a square canyon bottom, like a natural duel field. At this time, the two groups have stood in their respective positions and are planning to decide the winner. Uchiha Shoichi. Why bother? Fugaku looked at the Uchiha clan members standing behind Shoichi and showed a regretful expression. No matter who wins, Uchiha will fall into an unprecedented low. The only difference is that Uchiha Shoichi has already found a high-level Konoha as a backer. Uchiha Masachi sneered. Don't be so hypocritical. Your father led the Uchiha clan in the wrong direction from the beginning. If he continues like this, the Uchiha clan will sooner or later be in trouble. It's time for me to set things right. Fugaku raised the kunai in his hand and pointed it at Uchiha Masachi. I know some of my father's ideas are indeed extreme, but there is one thing he did not do wrong. He made himself stronger. On the contrary, it's you. You sold out the Uchiha clan and completely defected to Konoha. Sooner or later, the Uchiha clan will become the next Senju clan to disappear. Senju clan. Uchiha Masachi heard Uchiha Fugaku's accusation and looked at Fugaku with pity. Poor guy, your vision is as narrow as your father's. The Uchiha clan has always been hostile to other people in Konoha, so how can it rise? As long as I lead the Uchiha clan, we will soon be able to integrate into Konoha, and Konoha village will also usher in the first Hokage in history. That's right, Uchiha Masachi's goal has never been a mere Uchiha clan leader. Uchiha Masachi wanted to truly lead the Uchiha to integrate into Konoha, so that he would have a chance to get the position he had coveted for a long time. Fugaku was absolutely sober at this time. The promise of a Konoha high level? Bah. Uchiha Masachi looked down on a conservative guy like Fugaku, and Fugaku really looked down on the naive Uchiha Masachi. The Konoha high-level officials were obviously taking advantage of Uchiha Masachi's desire for power and promised him countless benefits, including the supreme throne. The price was to weaken the power of the Uchiha clan and kill the Uchiha Fugaku line. For the Konoha high level officials, this was completely a way to reap the benefits. For Uchiha Masashi, if he only killed a few people in exchange for the trust of the Konoha high level officials, once he really became the Hokage, he would only be the hero of the Uchiha clan. Unlike Itachi and Shizu, who were eager to resolve the conflict between the village and the Uchiha in the future, Uchiha Masashi's goal was not peace, but his own desire. Although Fugaku was young, he had long seen through the insidiousness and darkness of the Konoha high-level officials. Once the Uchiha is weak, what will greet the Uchiha is definitely not the village's recognition, the qualification of Hokage, but a cruel and bloody strangulation. Uchiha Masakazu has gone crazy. His mind is full of power, but he forgot that his greatest asset is the Uchiha clan he wants to weaken. Fugaku no longer wants to talk. For a madman, he has nothing to say. Of course, in the eyes of Konoha's high-level officials and Uchiha Masakazu, Fugaku is the madman who is trying to stop a chariot with his arms. Brother. At this moment, a shout came from above the canyon. Uchiha Teiji shouted palely. And following behind Uchiha Teiji was the gloomy-faced Rope Tree. Rope Tree killed Uchiha Teiji countless times along the way. But Uchiha Teiji's original Sharingan is much stronger than Danzo's copycat and Obito's transplanted eyes. In the state of eyes energy for a full 10 minutes. Died and resurrected, and escaped and died again for the last time. Seeing Uchiha Zengai and others below, Rope Tree's arms turned into branches and inserted into Uchiha Teiji's body from behind. Blood splattered. Chapter 70 Awakening Kaleidoscope. Blood dripped from the sky under the sunlight. Uchiha Teiji's eyes rolled away, but soon, his right eye gradually lost its luster, and the three Magatama in it also turned grey. Time is up. The branch that pierced Uchiha Teiji slowly returned to the front of the Rope Tree, and finally restored to the arm of the Rope Tree, and the arm remained on Uchiha Teiji's chest. Wow. Uchiha Teiji's mouth also began to ooze blood. He had seen his brother, but because of the piercing wound just now, his lungs had been injured. Uchiha Teiji could only open his mouth like a dead fish, as if saying goodbye to Uchiha Zengai. Brother, I'm sorry, I can't see the day when you achieve great things, but I believe in you. One day, Uchiha will be led by you to glory. Uchiha Teiji chose to believe in his brother until his death. His brother has always been the most correct one, since he was a child. As a younger brother, he has never questioned his brother, but just tried to keep up with his brother's footsteps and stand up when his brother needs him the most. Brother, I'm really useless. Looking at the blue sky, Uchiha Teiji's other eye finally slowly closed. Teiji. Uchiha Masa watched Uchiha Teiji being killed by Rope Tree in front of him. Just a little bit. He was just a little bit away from saving his brother. Uchiha Masashi has always had conflicting feelings towards Uchiha Teiji. On the one hand, he thinks his brother is a little stupid and has a bad temper. But it is undeniable that he knows that Uchiha Teiji may be the only one who will stand shoulder to shoulder with him at the end of the world. Uchiha Masashi's three Magatama Sharingan turned wildly, and it seemed to have changed. Rope Tree breathed a sigh of relief. If Uchiha Teiji really escaped, it would be a big problem. The round eye between Rope Tree's eyebrows disappeared. Although his Sage mode can be entered instantly, it still requires natural energy to maintain. With his current strength, maintaining it for 10 minutes is basically the limit, unlike the first generation who can fight Madara for 3 days and 3 nights. But even if he lost the Sage mode, he should be able to defeat Uchiha Masaoka together with Fugaku. Damn it. Rope Tree looked at Uchiha Masaoka's eyes, as if he had seen a ghost. The three Magatama that were once everywhere disappeared, and a brand new version that had never appeared before appeared. The black Magatama turned into 3 sharp shuriken-like marks, staring at him intently. Main Gekio. Rope Tree didn't expect to stimulate Uchiha Masao so much. Uchiha Masao also discovered his changes. He stopped and stroked his eyes with his hands. Fugaku also noticed the changes in Uchiha Masao and was shocked. Main Gekio Sharingan. As a descendant of the Uchiha clan leader, Fugaku naturally recognized what it was. The legend of the Uchiha clan. Every Uchiha clan member who opens the main Gekio will reach the level of Kage with that terrifying increase. And Uchiha Masao is also the first Uchiha clan member to open the main Gekio after Uchiha Madara. It's bad. Fugaku's hands and feet were cold at this moment. Uchiha who opened the manger key. If Uchiha Shoichi had opened the manger key before, he wouldn't have to do this mess. He would have gotten the support of 99% of the Uchiha clan members if he just went to that station. Fugaku came to Noise and said vigilantly, "Be careful Noise. That's the manger key Sharingan. It's a more advanced mode of the Sharingan. It's extremely powerful. Be careful." Noise cursed in his heart. As one of the strongest bloodline limits in Naruto, he knew the horror of the manger key Sharingan better than Fugaku. After Uchiha Shoichi stood there and adapted to the power of the manger key for a while, he already knew what happened to his body. Uchiha Shoichi looked at Fugaku in ecstasy. "I said, I'm the most correct choice for the Uchiha clan. This is the will of God." Noise looked at the rampant Uchiha Shoichi and could only pray that his manger key ability would not be too against the sky. If he met any power of the level of the other gods or Kamu, there would be no point in fighting. Uchiha Masachi looked at Noise with a sinister smile. "You actually killed my brother, the humble Senju clan. Let me show you the true power of the Uchiha clan." Uchiha Masachi's main Gekaya started spinning wildly. "Danger." Noise rolled forward, and there was a sound of breaking air behind him. Noise's heart was alarmed. This invisible attack is the most deadly. He didn't see how the attack came just now. The evasion just now was just a subconscious reaction. The danger came again, and Noise had to use wood release to summon countless branches to dance around, creating an absolute domain. And Fugaku was also trying his best to capture the source of the crisis with his 3 Magatama Sharingan. But the effect can only be said to be better than nothing. 3 Magatama fight against main Gekyo, except for Najaru. Basically no one is so stupid, let alone win. Uchiha Masachi looked at the fully armed Noise and decisively changed his target. Puff. A hit. Fugaku flew backwards. Noise also saw something in the previous attack. A humanoid. Uchiha Shoichi's manger key ability seems to create an invisible transparent person to attack. Is this Madara's Wheelgrave prison? How to fight this? Of course, it may just be of the same nature. If it was really Madara's terrifying eye technique, Noise couldn't dodge it just now, and would have died directly. After knocking Fugaku away, Uchiha Shoichi's attention returned to Noise again. "It's really not easy for the Senju clan to revive in you. When you were young, I almost killed you, but it's a pity that you awakened would release at that time, otherwise you would have no chance to stand here. When you were a child?" When Noise was still thinking about when the incident happened, Fugaku, who was lying on the ground, changed his face and gritted his teeth and said, "Did you give me the drug?" Noise was still confused. Fugaku struggled to get up. "I had a duel with you before. At the last moment, I gradually began to lose control of my consciousness and chakra, as if I had become a wild beast that only knew how to kill. Later, my father and I checked and found that my symptoms were caused by a poisonous flower called poppy, which can make people violent and lose their minds. After many investigations, we ended up with nothing. We originally thought it was done by someone from Konoha, but it turned out to be you. Drugging people has always been an extremely shameful act." No wonder Fugaku didn't catch Uchiha Masakazu's tail. Uchiha Masakazu began to laugh wildly. "I was just helping others. It's a pity that you, a waste, didn't kill the damn Senju clan at that time. But it doesn't matter. Next, I'll send you off." Chapter 71 Yubichi and Tsubichi. Rope Tree's face also darkened. Some things are better left unmentioned, but if they are said out loud, it will undoubtedly be a slap in the face. Rope Tree once again rushed towards Uchiha Masachi with a huge branch. Fire style, dragon flame singing. This time, Uchiha Masachi chose to confront Rope Tree head on. Something strange happened. Uchiha Masachi's flames wrapped around the branches from top to bottom, as if they had a soul, and soon extended to the ground. Changing the form of ninjutsu, Rope Tree was shocked. There is such a skill? This is not as simple as changing the nature, it is completely creating a new blood limit. The flames were like a devil's hand, and soon smoothed the branches around Rope Tree. This is the only escape technique that Rope Tree has seen so far that can fight against wood style. Sure enough, the Uchiha who can open the manger key are not simple guys. That strange feeling came again, and Rope Tree was also blown away by a huge force. Rope Tree was a little collapsed. Although Uchiha Masachi's skills are not as good as Obito and Shisu, the increase in frontal strength is absolutely against the sky. On the one hand, it can change the form of fire escape to make it more flexible, and on the other hand, it can summon a completely invisible thing to assist in combat. At this time, Uchiha Zengai's strength in a head-on confrontation is almost as strong as that of a ninja in the late stage of the cage level. Would escape tree binding strangle. The huge branches soared into the sky, but it was as if an invisible huge force twisted the branches off, without hurting Uchiha Zengai's hair. Uchiha Zengai looked at the rope tree proudly. Tremble. Let you know what the real power of Uchiha is. The pupil techniques of the Uchiha clan's main Gekyo are the deepest desires of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Zengai is not surprised. The pupil technique in his right eye is called Ubitori, and the pupil technique in his left eye is Subichir. Ubitori can summon a completely invisible substitute, which can be called immortal and indestructible, with infinite power, and can be replaced at any time. This is a pupil technique that Uchiha Zengai has been hiding behind for a long time. For an old yin wall, the most suitable one is naturally the most obscene technique. And Subichii did not change the form of ninjutsu as rope tree guessed, but extended and strengthened his own technique. Each ninjutsu has a limit distance. For example, the Rasengan, before it becomes a whirlpool shuriken, can only be released by condensing it in the hand, but with Subichii, it can be released directly from 10 meters away. Watching Uchiha Teiji die in front of him, Uchiha Masachi felt endless self-blame at that moment. If he had a long-distance method just now, he might be able to save Uchiha Teiji. The two major pupil techniques are both offensive and defensive techniques, which makes Uchiha Masachi like a hedgehog at this time. Fire escape, great fireball technique. A huge fireball spit out from Uchiha Masachi's mouth, flew a full 40 meters away, and came in front of Rope Tree. Rope Tree could only escape and dodge. Fugaku looked at the embarrassed Rope Tree in frustration. Aren't you the one who killed Hanzo? That's it? Rope Tree was even more frustrated than Fugaku. That's a main Gekyo. How can Hanzo have such a weird ability? Compared to Hanzo, who is still in the normal ninja category, the main Gekyo of the Uchiha clan is simply not a human. Once the weakest Uchiha opens the main Gekyo, he can beat the opponent to death with his weird ability. This is the most terrifying part of the main Gekyo. Uchiha Masakazu was playing with his pupil skills at this time, and the stand created by Ubitori with his left eye attacked from behind in various ways. And the ninjutsu he released was also under the influence of Subichir, staring at the two of them like a tracking missile. Rope Tree not only had to protect himself, but also had to pay attention to Fugaku. Fugaku's strength at this time was only that of a jonin, and he would definitely die if he was hit twice by Uchiha Masakazu's stand. Would release Tree World Advent. Another Tree World Advent, releasing large-scale ninjutsu in succession within a day. Even Rope Tree was a little overwhelmed. Fortunately, the huge trees temporarily blocked Uchiha Masakazu's attack. The trees formed by wood release can also confuse the observation of chakra by Sharingan. Rope Tree leaned against a big tree and looked at Fugaku breathlessly. Do you have any other ideas? Fugaku also woke up from the shock of the other party's awakening of main Jiki and looked at Rope Tree with grief and anger. It's all because of you. Why didn't you kill Uchiha Teiji earlier? You had to let him die under Uchiha Masakazu's skin. Rope Tree scratched his hair in frustration. I didn't know that Uchiha Teiji was so timid. He hit me with Izanagi right away. It's all because the Uchiha clan has too many weird techniques. What should I do now? The advent of the tree world can't stop that guy for long. Fugaku had no tricks. At this time, Uchiha Masakazu and his strength were not at the same level. Mistakes. I can only say that this pair of brothers really had a lot of accidents. It was obviously a dead end for them, but they awakened main Jiki. Outside, Uchiha Masachi looked at the huge forest fiercely. Rats. You still don't understand the power of the Uchiha clan. Let me show you the power of the Uchiha. A huge earthy brown skeleton appeared. Then came the muscles, and finally put on a battle armor, holding a huge kunai in his hand. Fugaku hid in the woods, staring at the monster with his mouth wide open. What is this? Susanoo, a pupil technique that only Uchiha with a main Gekyo can use. Very scary. Naoki explained helplessly. He was most annoyed by this Gundam of the Uchiha. Sure enough, Uchiha Masashi really made one for him. Fugaku looked at Naoki in confusion. Why do I feel that you know more about the main Gekio than me, the young patriarch of the Uchiha family? But this was obviously not the time to be confused. Uchiha Masachi's Susanoo began to swing the kunai. With the blessing of Subichir, every time he swung the kunai, it was as if a sword energy that could destroy everything was raging in the woods. Naoki and Fugaku could only flee again. I found you. Uchiha Masakazu, who was standing inside Susanoo, quickly found the two of them and threw the kunai in the hand of Susanoo directly at the two of them. Ninjutsu, triple Rashomon. 3 huge gates of hell broke out of the ground. But this Susanoo kunai was obviously not inferior to these 3 gates, and it shot directly through the first 2 gates, but was slowed down by the 3rd gate. The huge kunai pierced the ground, dust flew, and a deep hole appeared on the ground. Is he dead? Uchiha Masakazu's main Jiki kept turning, trying to see the situation in the hole clearly. Wood release, wood dragon technique. A huge dragon's mouth roared out from below and bit the shoulder of Uchiha Masakazu's Susanoo. Naoki stood on the wooden dragon, with a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. I didn't expect that I would use this trick on you. Chapter 72 Mission Impossible. At this time, there was a slug lying on Rope Tree's shoulder. Slug-sama, please help me recover my chakra. I'm going to start. The slug hummed softly and began to replenish chakra into Rope Tree's body. Rope Tree stood on the huge head of the wooden dragon and began to make hand seals. Wood release, woodman technique. A face without sadness or joy emerged from the neck of the wooden dragon, and soon, arms and limbs began to grow from the body of the wooden dragon. A wooden man no smaller than Susanoo appeared. Rope Tree's face turned pale, and his panting sounded more rapid than before. The chakra consumed by the wooden man technique was terrifying, so he had to summon the slug to recover his chakra, otherwise he would die before the wooden man came out. Fugaku looked at the 2 monsters in shock from below. At this time, he realized that there was a gap between him and Rope Tree. When Uchiha Masakazu saw the wooden man appear, he also showed a rare vigilant look. The giant Susanoo attacked first, but was stopped by the wooden man. The attack that had been successful just now only caused some sawdust to fall on the wooden man. Susanoo was faster than the wooden man, and the wooden man was thicker and stronger than Susanoo. The confrontation between the 2 behemoths caused the surrounding environment to suffer, and the ground soon became bumpy. Uchiha Masakazu's main Gekio was spinning wildly, as if he was thinking about how to give Rope Tree a fatal blow. But at this moment, a sharp pain made him tremble all over. The giant Susanoo began to shake. Opportunity. Rope Tree did not hesitate, and his huge fist hit Susanoo's jaw. Susanoo disappeared. Uchiha Masakazu flew backwards. Rope Tree smiled knowingly. The main Gekio is strong, but the side effects are also amazing. Uchiha Masakazu wanted to get familiar with the power of the main Gekio, and he was even more crazy and suicidal. This is equivalent to the 2nd pillar, overusing the main Gekio, which caused Itachi's main Gekio to be used for several years, and his 3 months were almost blind. Rope Tree jumped from the top of the wooden man, using the little natural energy he had just recovered, and a round eye pattern appeared on his forehead. Senju, Marginman. A portal fell from the sky and firmly pressed Uchiha Masakazu into the soil. Senju Rope Tree, victory. Uchiha Masakazu fell into deep self-doubt, and this emotion was stronger than the pain in his eyes. How could I lose? I have awakened the legendary main Gekio. It must be an illusion. But the pain all over his body and the Marginman pressing on him told him that he was overthinking. Rope Tree came in front of Uchiha Masakazu and was about to take out Uchiha Masakazu's main Gekio when Uchiha Masakazu suddenly shouted, Fugaku, if you dare to kill me, your father, your wife, will all die. Fugaku and Rope Tree's movements both stopped. Seeing that it worked, Uchiha Masakazu hurriedly said, when we came out, I had someone kidnap your father and your wife. If you kill me, they will die too. Think it over. Fugaku's eyes were full of distrust. Impossible. Those who protect them are all my confidants. Fugaku suddenly thought that the confidants around Uchiha Masakazu also had their own people, so it was so easy to trick Uchiha Teiji out. Could it be? Fugaku's 3 Magatama turned around, and he recalled in his mind who was suspicious among the people who stayed to protect his father and wife. Rope Tree looked at the two people who were confronting each other. Good guy, mission impossible? Rope Tree didn't care much about the life and death of Uchiha Jiraiya, but if Uchiha Makoto died, wouldn't the future 1 on 7 and the second pillar be gone? However, a pair of Mangekyo was right in front of him, and Rope Tree said that there was no reason to refuse. Rope Tree's hand was like a devil's hand, reaching out to Uchiha Masakazu's desperate eyes little by little. Swish! A kunai flew over and stopped Rope Tree's action. Rope Tree turned his head angrily and looked at Fugaku. Fugaku said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Naoki, I can't take the risk." Naoki stepped forward and grabbed Fugaku's collar. He yelled directly at his face, "Wake up, he is not an ordinary person, he is an Uchiha who has awakened the Mangekyo. I defeated him just now because he is not familiar with the power of the Mangekyo. Once he recovers, we will definitely die. And who do you think your people will choose between him and you?" Fugaku hesitated, while Uchiha Masakazu saw the hope of life. His head was suppressed by the marginman, and he could only twist his neck and look at Fugaku sincerely. "Fugaku, let me go this time. I promise to support you to take the throne. I can assist you." Fugaku did not answer, but asked, "Where are my father and my wife now?" Uchiha Masakazu shook his head. "I will tell you, only if you let me go. You don't know what life or death is." Naoki on the side controlled a branch to wrap around Uchiha Masakazu's neck and kept exerting force. Uchiha Masakazu's eyes were bulging and his face was red, but he still didn't speak. He was gambling on a chance to survive. Fugaku stopped Naoki again. "Let him go, Naoki." Naoki hated himself and had to break the margin gate and let Uchiha Masachi out. Uchiha Masa took a big breath of fresh air and his temperament returned to calm. He didn't dare to look at Naoki, but just sorted out his clothes. Fugaku stared at him. "Tell me quickly, where are my father and wife?" Uchiha Masachi had to say, "I have imprisoned them in a place only I know, and I must take you there." Uchiha Masachi was not stupid. If he really said it directly, he might still be killed by a knife. Naoki clenched his fists and looked at Uchiha Masachi unhappily. Fugaku grabbed Naoki. "Take us there." The place was not in the Uchiha clan or Konoha, but in another secret place. "It's inside." After arriving at the place, Uchiha Masachi pointed to a small door and said to Naoki and Fugaku. Naoki glared at Uchiha Masachi and walked straight to the small door. When Naoki held the door handle, Uchiha Masachi raised a smile. Boom. A huge explosion sounded, and heat waves rolled. Uchiha Masachi broke free from his restraints in an instant, and began to laugh. "Idiot. Fugaku, your weakness killed your teammates. I told you that you are just a stupid guy." The Fugaku who stayed in front of Masachi spread his hands helplessly, and said to the flames of the explosion, "Look, you idiot. Even your enemies look down on you." A cloud of smoke exploded around Fugaku, and he turned into Naoki, and a figure walked out of the flames in embarrassment. It was Fugaku. Fugaku looked at Naoki and Uchiha Masachi helplessly. "You won. I wanted to believe him once." Haha. Naoki glanced at Fugaku sarcastically, took out a small scalpel, and looked at the confused Uchiha Masachi. "Come here." Chapter 73. My Fugaku is so awesome. It turned out that Fugaku really had compassion just now. Uchiha Masakazu is a member of the Uchiha clan after all. Not only has he been in a high position for many years, but he can also be said to be an uncle who has watched Fugaku grow up. So when Naoki and Fugaku were arguing, Fugaku asked Naoki to give Uchiha Masakazu a chance. The two of them tried to test Uchiha Masakazu together. Naoki could take away the eyes, but could he let the person live? Naoki hesitated for a while, but still agreed to Fugaku's request. The two then exchanged identities. After all, if Uchiha Masakazu wanted to escape, Naoki was still the key, so Fugaku took the initiative to take the risk. Fugaku wanted to see if Uchiha Masakazu really changed, but it was obvious that the explosion just now made him a little unhappy, and even caused Fugaku, who had taken protective measures, to suffer a lot. As for his father and wife, Fugaku was not a fool. He saw that this exchange was a stopgap measure. But deep in his heart, Fugaku still hoped that there would be a miracle. But the facts have proved that once a person falls into the quagmire of power, there is basically no hope. Under Fugaku's regretful eyes, Naoki pulled out Uchiha Masahiro's Mangeki alive and twisted his neck with a branch. After sealing the two Mangekis, Naoki patted Fugaku on the shoulder. It's your clansmen who drag you down. If the enemy just now was not Uchiha Masahiro, but someone else, you would not be so merciful. Fugaku moved Naoki's arm away. We pursue different things. My goal is to try my best to protect my clansmen. This is my destiny. Fugaku went over and took out the scroll and sealed Uchiha Masahiro's body into a scroll. I didn't expect Uchiha Masahiro to awaken the Mangeki, otherwise I would never give it to you. Don't let these eyes down. Naoki waved his hand and walked away alone without saying a word. After Uchiha Fugaku returned to the clan, he quickly found his father and wife and quickly stabilized the clansmen. In addition, he made a very generous decision. Forgive the Uchiha ninja who followed Uchiha Masakazu and let bygones be bygones. Uchiha Fugaku gave Uchiha Masakazu a chance, let alone other clansmen. After all, he was reluctant to turn the butcher knife on his own clansmen. This seemed to have saved Uchiha from a storm and preserved the strength of Uchiha. Little did he know that his kindness would be the last straw that broke the camel's back for Uchiha in the future. That night, Uchiha also passed away in relief. As the patriarch of the first powerful clan in the ninja world, Uchiha's funeral was still very grand, and all the Konoha high-level officials were present. The third generation Hokage came to Fugaku and comforted him. Fugaku, don't worry, your father can rest in peace with such an outstanding descendant like you. Fugaku smiled and said he didn't dare. Danzo looked at Fugaku. His hand holding the cane was shaking a little, and he didn't say any polite words of condolences, and turned and left directly. When the third Hokage and other high-ranking officials left, Fugaku's eyes showed a Sharingan with complex patterns, and he watched them leave. Naoki returned home excitedly, with a happy smile on his face. I've made a fortune. Although Uchiha Teiji is missing an eye, Uchiha Shoichi's Mangeki is definitely a pleasant surprise. It was because of this happy mood that Naoki was willing to accompany Fugaku to perform a play, otherwise no one would bother him. But after all, there is Tsunade at home, and many things are gradually not suitable to be placed at home. Just make do with it. Naoki carefully observed the three Sharingans, especially the two Mangeki Sharingans. Mangeki will go blind after being used for a long time. If there is no such restriction, Itachi's strength can go up another 20%. To eliminate this disgusting negative effect, it is natural to integrate another Sharingan and evolve it into the eternal Mangeki Sharingan. But there is an exception, that is, the future Black Glove, Uchiha Obito. He used Kamu more times than Itachi's Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi combined, but nothing happened. He even lent his account to Kazi in the end, so that Kazi could show off his Kamu Shuriken. This is most likely because Obito has cells of the first generation in his body. After all, half of his body is made of White Zetsu's tissues, and White Zetsu is the product of the Divine Tree and the first generation cells. After Madara fused the first generation cells in the later period, he obviously discovered a lot of interesting things. He dug out many secrets of the integration of the Senju clan and Uchiha. These secrets are the most important things, and the Samsara is just one of the results. Madara seems to have a tendency to become a scientist. White Zetsu and Obito are both his masterpieces. Sure enough, the end of the Will of Fire is science. Of course, this is just a guess. For this kind of operation involving his future, it is more appropriate to conduct clinical experiments. Rope Tree put away his Sharingan, knowing that with his current strength, he should really let go and do his own things. In his own plan, human and material resources are indispensable. The first is the most important scientific research. In the case that he is not dead, the Will of Fire obviously still needs Krypton gold to protect it. In order not to be patted on the head, the power of technology is indispensable. Although Orochimaru, the chief scientist of Hokage, is his teacher, scientific research is a waste of money. As a person who owes foreign debts, Rope Tree urgently needs a force of his own to execute his will. In Rope Tree's plan, this force should be the same as the future Akatsuki. There can be many bottom level personnel, but the core must be those who have reached the level of Kage. TSK, we may have to compete with Akatsuki for people in the future. Akatsuki seems to have not been established yet. Rope Tree suddenly realized this problem. Doesn't that mean that except for the core trio, other guys can be won over? No, except for Nagato. The trio can also be won over. The only problem is Fiden. After all, the evil god cult has been destroyed by himself. Rope Tree thought of this, and his mood became better. Not only that, there are many masters in Konoha, such as Minato and Kushina. It turns out that he can poach people so happily. Rope Tree has no psychological burden at all to poach people from Konoha. Think about what will happen to the Minato couple, the three ninjas of Konoha, Konoha White Fang, Shisu, Itachi, and all of them will be ruined in the future. It's better to follow me than to lose your life sooner or later. I will poach people like crazy until the whole Konoha has my last name. Will I be the Senju of Konoha or the Senju of Konoha in the future? Naoki opened his mouth wide, and his bright white teeth shone brightly. The third Hokage who had just left the funeral suddenly sneezed. Are you missing me, old friend? Forget it, you should go to hell by yourself, HU. Happy New Year everyone. Chapter 74 remarks on the release plus Happy New Year. Today, I applied for the listing with my dear editor Zillion. If nothing goes wrong, it will be available tomorrow. Tomorrow is New Year's Day. I wish all readers a happy new year. At the same time, I also hope that my life and my book will be reborn. In 2020, the sweetest year, many people suffered the worst torture. Raujin, my self-proclaimed name, had planned to write online articles a long time ago, but I didn't start writing until the epidemic. However, there were about 3 books before, and they were always drafts without signing. So from that time on, I knew that I was not a natural protagonist, so I started from the most basic and simplest. Based on my love for Naruto, I had this book Naruto, Konoha Thousand Hands. Readers who can find my book should be old bookworms. After all, it is difficult to find this book without recommendation and popularity. It can be seen that what I wrote before is still very bad, but slowly, I began to understand how to control the plot, how to lay ambush reasonably, and how to tell a story smoothly. This book brought me my first contract, my first comment, and my first reward. I have a deep impression of these moments, including the IDs of many readers. I have kept them in mind. Thank you for your non-disdain and attention. Even if it is to avoid regrets, I will finish this book well. Now it has reached the 70th chapter. Compared with the previous chapters, I personally feel that there is still some progress. I will continue to work hard and write well. I also hope that all readers can continue to support. Familiar separator, about update, to chapters and 4,000 words a day are basic. On weekends, there will be 6,000 to 10,000. Of course, as long as the author is free, there will be more. I know that this update speed is a bit unsatisfactory, but please understand. Because I'm about to go to the hospital for internship, working in the hospital cannot tolerate any carelessness. I have to be responsible for every patient and every report. This is the minimum moral integrity of a medical worker. So don't think about writing during working hours. You can only use your free time to update. You can collect some fat first, and then read it. Haha. Once again, I wish all readers a happy new year and good health. PS. Group number is 374,601,348. Let's have a happy chat together. Chapter 75 Back to the Front. When Noace was still thinking about how to become bigger and stronger and create more glory, a transfer order asked him to leave Konoha. It turned out that the third Kazekage was still resisting. Although Hatake Tsukumo was not afraid of the other party, he could not quickly defeat the Send village. The reason why Noace was sent was mainly because Orochimaru and Tsunade had their own tasks. In this war, the concept of the medical team proposed by Tsunade was very advanced. In the Rain Ninja battlefield, the medical team saved the lives of countless ninjas and greatly reduced the losses of Konoha. Konoha, which discovered this, naturally continued to vigorously develop the medical team. However, the cost of training a medical ninja is high, and if you are not careful, you will not save people but harm people. Tsunade has now officially joined the Konoha hospital to train the medical team. He was so busy all day that he didn't even go home a few times, let alone go to the battlefield. As for Orochimaru, Orochimaru actually joined the route after returning to the village. No Ace didn't blame Orochimaru. After all, if Orochimaru wanted to conduct some experiments in the village, he would inevitably have to deal with Danzo. However, Orochimaru may take a different path from the original. Compared with the study of immortality, the current Orochimaru is undoubtedly more interested in fairy arts. However, it is impossible for Naoki to let his teacher only study this one, and it would be a waste to not use such free labor. Before leaving, Naoki went to see Orochimaru. Naoki left some of his blood and cells, and Orochimaru was quite pleased with this. Naoki's cells may be much weaker than those of the first generation, but because of this, they are also gentler than those of the first generation. At the same time, Naoki also gave Uchiha Tage's Sharingan to Orochimaru, asking him to study the possibility of the fusion of the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan. Orochimaru just sighed about Naoki's Sharingan, and didn't react much. After all, Orochimaru's later almost crazy pursuit of Sharingan was all because of Itachi. Before that, Orochimaru just regarded Sharingan as a slightly more powerful bloodline limit. Otherwise, with Orochimaru's status and strength in Konoha before he defected, it would be too easy to get a pair of Sharingan. Others would be afraid of Uchiha, but would Orochimaru be afraid? Naoki gave Orochimaru a task, and Orochimaru plunged into it directly after agreeing. He didn't care about Naoki going to the battlefield at all. It's not that Orochimaru is indifferent, because he also knows the situation on the front line. With Hatake Tsukumo and Naoki in the front line against Sand Village, if they still fail, there is only one possibility: one of them is a traitor. Tsunade is similar, and she is completely different from the way she carefully instructed Naoki before. No love. Naoki complained, then went into battle lightly, and led a team to the front line of Sand Village. The team led by Naoki is not large, only 30 people, all of whom are Chunin. Many of the 30 people are still the same age as Naoki, and most of them are actually direct descendants of some wealthy families. Don't get me wrong, it's not that these wealthy families suddenly showed kindness, but that these second generation ninjas are here to get some merit. Anyone with a discerning eye knows that this is the end of the war, and there are no tough battles. At this time, making a fortune is at least a capital for future promotion. So, people are like this. Naoki doesn't have a good impression of these second generation ninjas. They hide behind in battles and rush to the front when competing for credit. No wonder they will be pressed down by the three ninjas and Minato in the future. If they had worked harder, the position of Hokage would not have been Minato's without any foundation. However, these second generation ninjas are very curious about Naoki, but they are a little timid, but not stupid. The gap between Naoki and their strength is there. If they really dare to come and get close to Naoki, Naoki will definitely reward them with a set of wood release fitness exercises. The group's speed is neither fast nor slow, and they just arrived at the Sand Village battlefield on time. Hatake Tsukumo is also very respectful and personally stands at the door to greet them, which makes the second generation ninjas feel very proud. Hatake Tsukumo also gave him a few words of encouragement, and then he looked at Naoki. Good boy, you've grown taller. Naoki chuckled twice, and stepped forward to give this elder brother who was both his teacher and friend a big hug. I left in a hurry. You didn't think I was a deserter, did you? When he mentioned this, Tsukumo's dead eyes reappeared. I really thought you were going to fish, but I didn't expect you to find a salamander. Come on, tell me how you killed Hanzo? That night, the two grown men warmed up a small pot of wine in the military camp, and boasted about all kinds of things. Naoki was very excited about the famous scene of killing Hanzo with the last sword. In the end, he was drunk, and began to mock Tsukumo for not winning against Sand Village. Tsukumo was also dissatisfied. I thought you killed Hanzo alone. It turns out that your sister and your master consumed Danzo's wave, and then you went up to collect the heads. What's more, the last sword technique you used to kill Hanzo was not my Hatake style. Tsukumo and Naoki started to argue. Both of them were red-faced. Come on. Let me see how strong you are now. Tsukumo was basically defeated by now, and Naoki was almost the same. Let's go. Let's go to the old place and have a fight. Two drunken young men made an appointment to fight on the spot. The scene was horrible. The two men supported each other and walked out of the barracks, shouting that they wanted to fight. The other senior ninjas were confused. I was shocked. Who can stop these two big guys from fighting? A group of senior ninjas followed the two nervously, and Tsukumo and Naoki soon arrived at the destination. It was the place where Naoki used to practice swordsmanship. Are you ready? I'm going to fight. Naoki looked at Tsukumo with cold eyes. Tsukumo was sobered up by the mountain breeze, and turned his head to see the senior ninjas who followed him. Tsukumo, who was always calm, was suddenly embarrassed. Nonkushu, forget it. The secret of Konoha's physical technique. 1,000 years of killing. Narshu moved as fast as a tiger, and his two fingers were as light as a dragon. He put his fingers behind Tsukumo in a chic posture. Tsukumo's face changed drastically, and an indescribable wonderful feeling surged in his heart. And the jonin who were watching the game swallowed their saliva. What should I do if the boss was stabbed? Waiting online. It's urgent. 1,000 hands. Narshu. Tsukumo turned around, and it was hard to tell whether he was wronged or angry in his eyes. Hatake style sword technique. 80 consecutive hit. It was horrible. Horrible. Tsukumo knocked Narshu unconscious alive, and his sharp eyes swept over the jonin. Aburame Hiji was the first to stand up. Boss, we didn't see anything. The others nodded quickly. Tsukumo secretly hated. None of you have left the camp today. Did you hear that? Yeah. Tsukumo looked at Narshu with disdain, who didn't know whether he was asleep or unconscious. Take this guy back to me. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.